It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Andy Anako is slumming, visiting us from MacBreak Weekly. All the way from Austin, Texas, Wesley Faulkner, his first time on. And from TechCrunch and Crunchbase News, Alex Wilhelm. We'll talk about Ready Player One, Cloudflare's April Fool's joke, or was it? And something kind of sad that'll be happening to people who want to visit the U.S. in the near future. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for This Week in Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 660, recorded Sunday, April 1st, 2018. Bankwupt. This Week in Tech is brought to you by IT Pro TV, flexible and entertaining training for your IT career. Visit itpro.tv/twit and use the code TWIT30 to get a free 7-day trial and 30% off a monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. And by Wink, the best way to discover new wines that you'll love. Go to trywink.com/twit and get $20 off your first shipment. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/twit2. And by Casper, a sleep brand that continues to revolutionize its line of products to create an exceptionally comfortable sleep experience, one night at a time. You can save $50 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/twit and using the promo code TWIT at checkout. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we get together and talk about the week's tech news. And there is a lot of it, but fortunately we won't be talking about any of it because it's the Good Time panel this week. I recognize that chortle. That's Andy Anako.
Yes.
Formerly of the Chicago Sun-Times, now Geek at Large.
Yes. Now I was asked for my bio for like my Fast Company piece, and I said just say veteran journalist.
Veteran.
Because like it's like I've been looking at other people's bylines, and I feel as though the more stuff you put into it, the less impressive it sounds. If you just simply say, they know who I am.
And they do.
Even if they don't.
If they don't, they ought to. Andy, of course, is regular co-host on MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays. He's the host of the Material Podcast at Relay.fm. He's actually the busiest unemployed person I know. You will hear him on WBUR in Boston, on NPR Radio there.
WGBH, by the way.
It's GBH. I'm sorry. BUR is that other guy who comes on the show.
We are a two public radio station.
That's amazing.
We also have a Burger King and a McDonald's.
But you're on the good. You're on the good one. You're on the McDonald's of in NPR stations.
Well, obviously, I would not be on. I would not be on.
No, you're on the In-N-Out.
We're not the best damn radio station.
You're on the Steak and Shake of NPR stations.
I feel like we could get into a long riff now about which fast food place is the best, but we can also just move on.
Which fast food place is the best? That's Alex Wilhelm. He ought to know. He's a youngin'. Also, editor-in-chief of Crunchbase News, which gives him some gravitas in this world. Nice
a modicum. I wouldn't go with the veteran journalist.
And he's about to move into my childhood home.
That's true.
In Providence, Rhode Island. It's nice to see you, Alex.
Good to be back.
And we want to welcome a newbie to the show, so be kind, be nice. Wesley Faulkner is here. I met Wesley in Austin when we were down for South by, and I was so impressed. You know why I was impressed? Because Stacey Higginbotham gave you the biggest hug, and I thought, well, he must be one of the good guys. Because Stacey's very finicky.
Yes.
It's nice to see you, Wesley.
Well,
welcome.
that's what you want, discerning.
She met you when you were at AMD,
yes,
doing IoT stuff there.
That was over 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, wow. But you still keep in touch.
Yes.
So jealous.
Absolutely.
Austin's a small town. This is, I should tell everybody, I should warn everybody, this is April Fool's. You know, though, it used to be you would walk onto the internet on April Fool's Day with a flak jacket going like this, beware. It seems to have calmed down a lot.
Because it's Easter.
Is that it? It's the first time since I was born.
That's right.
First time in my lifetime that Easter and April Fool's fall on the same day.
Most of the Weisenheimers are at mass today.
Is that what it is?
I also think a lot of the good jokes have been done. I mean, if you think back to when this kind of blew up, Gmail had its like Gmail paper joke
Right.
that they were going to print out all your emails to you and send them to you, and everyone almost bought it for a second. Back then, it was a fresh kind of cool take on it, and now it's kind of like South by Southwest. No offense to Austin, but it's been so commercialized, the life's been beaten out of it, and now it's a mere husk of what it used to be.
It feels like at one point Google was spending about half of its time preparing for April Fool's Day. Every division of Google had an April Fool's page or joke. It's calmed down a lot. Google Maps had a Where's Waldo. If you go to your Maps app on your phone, a little Waldo peers out, and there's a Where's Waldo game on it, which isn't really even... You know, the one that upset people the most, I'm hearing, Pokemon Go had 8-bit Pokemon.
I hear that was popular, though. People liked that.
I heard it was unpopular. People didn't like it.
Well, according to my Twitter timeline, it was
according to
popular.
my Twitter
And we're off to the races. Welcome back to Twit.
according to my Twitter timeline.
So here's an idea, though. In that case, if it was popular among a certain subset, should they not build that out as an actual feature, as a toggle, an option?
I think that's why the unpopular set wasn't liking it. They don't want to see it. I presume it'll go away tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, these have to be one-day phenomena.
Yeah.
But the worst element of this is now people are going early or late on their April Fools to make them a bit more compelling, like a March 30th or 31st April Fool's joke. Not funny. No. And I don't think we should be doing that in the news media. It strikes me as a...
Funny or not funny? Google Cloud Hummus API.
What?
Not funny. Not funny. Not funny, Google.
That's the big problem.
In Israel, national dish. We have more than 20,000.
Maybe it's from Google Cloud Israel. I don't know. Maybe it's funny in Israel.
Isn't there a machine like voice thing called Taco?
Yes, Tacotron. We were talking about that on Twig on Wednesday, the Tacotron.
So, I mean, it's kind of believable. Let's go from taco to hummus.
Carl Pei, founder of OnePlus, has apparently announced cryptocurrency called Paycoin.
I did that joke back in 2014. I called it Crunchcoin at TC, and no one
Not that
thought
funny.
it was funny.
Yeah.
No.
This one's all right. This is T-Mobile. They announced a smart shoe phone.
The video was stupid. Funny stupid.
Yeah, pink Converse All-Stars with a phone.
Is that a sidekick?
By the past.
Yeah, the sidekicks. Get it?
T-Mobile is bringing back the Sidekick. And it's even
Actually,
better than you
okay,
remember.
This is painful because if they brought back the sidekick, I'd actually be happy.
You'd be stoked about that.
I want them to bring back the sidekick.
If you have a banana phone, you should have to.
I want a banana phone too. Did anybody order one? They announced it at Mobile World Congress. This is the phone that Neo used to get out of the office.
I have one coming.
Did you
I don't know
really?
what's coming, but
So jealous.
they say they're sending me one. I don't know when it's coming though.
I feel like though if you were in
I
like
want to see that email. Mr. Anatko, Nokia is pleased to announce that you will be receiving a banana phone.
Please try not to lord it all over everybody else. You got a
Then you gotta bring it to an
$99
Apple
phone
event.
Or do they
that
just
doesn't
go,
really run anything?
hello, Andy. You've got 5 seconds to get out of there.
that is the DeLorean of phones.
It's the DeLorean of phones.
And I do not mean that as a positive analogy. I mean that in the rudest possible way. It's not pretty. It's just nostalgia, and it's not going to be useful. And you can't tweet from it.
Speaking of nostalgia.
That's what makes it useful for a lot of people. But I love the idea of saying, what if we were to make a $99 phone and making it run smartphone type apps was not the hugest priority? What if it just has to run the basic social media apps that most people use and run them extremely, extremely well? And if you can do that for $100 and it's also a hotspot and it's not just a flip phone, it really is like a modern operating system with a really good GUI and a not crappy, but not crappy camera. There are a lot of people for whom they just want a good phone that works for them, and for $99, you can give this to your kid. They can't get in too much trouble with it.
That's
and
true.
If they drop it down a toilet or down a well, it won't take them long to mow a few lawns and be able to afford another one.
It does have Snake on it.
See, I used to play Snake on the old Nokias. That's cool. The retro still.
All right, so that's it on April Fools, right? We got. Do we cover the waterfront? I can't believe. I used to really dread it because I would go look at, I had to do my beat check, and I'd have to figure out what was real and what wasn't real. And and you're partly to blame for this, Alex Wilhelm, because I think you had some of those TechCrunch articles.
Yeah, we did, but that's when I thought I was funny. And then I realized that I wasn't, so I gave it up. Because it requires a certain level of, you have to be confident in your sense of humor to make a joke like that on behalf of your team without telling them. And then you just
you didn't tell them?
Oh, no. No. We would just write articles and ship them and then see what would happen.
See if anybody noticed?
Yeah, but I mean, it was fun, but I wouldn't go write the CrunchCoin article again, right? I mean,
course, if you think about anybody who would still think April Fool's jokes are funny, it would be Elon Musk. Elon was found passed out against a Tesla Model 3 surrounded by Tesla Tequila bottles, the tracks of dried tears still visible on his cheeks. This is not a forward-looking statement because, obviously, what's the point? He's got a cardboard Tesla box with the words Bankwupt.
Yeah.
That's not funny. It's kind of sad.
I'm sure he thinks it's funny because he thinks that there's no way that Tesla could possibly fail and that he couldn't be bankrupt. The rest of us are like, oh, let's right click and save this for the thought piece in 14
close
months.
to the bone. Before that, he tweeted,
a lot of Photoshop.
There are many chapters of bankruptcy, and his critics so rightly pointed out, Tesla has them all, including chapter 14 and a half, the worst one.
So,
am I missing something?
The joke here, if you don't get it, is that Tesla consumes tons of cash to operate and needs to borrow money constantly at a very high interest rate to fund its operations. And we've recently seen the cost of its debt go up dramatically, implying a lack of investor faith that it's going to be able to repay its debts, and also its share prices are down. So he's making a joke about it, but it's not funny because it might happen.
This is too true.
It's too close to home to be whimsical. It's just kind of sad.
If you're going to go down, don't you want to go down laughing, I guess?
I mean, yeah, but in that picture, he just looks kind of sad and alone.
It's on his terms.
That's true.
I'm going down on my terms.
I mean, he also owns SpaceX. I mean, I think Elon himself is doing fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's going to be like bankrupt and homeless, okay, pretty slick to be sleeping in a Tesla 3 as your home. But remember that he's got those crew modules at SpaceX that he could be sleeping in instead. That's got to be better space. You get to pick up your unemployment check in one of those astronaut suits that he was modeling about a year ago.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
He's probably kind of bummed that he sent his car into space now. He might have been able to.
There you go.
At
least getting the change out of the ashtray first. He could use that.
All right, now we're falling for the whole April.
See, now we're doing what they want.
Yes.
There was an April Fool's, I thought, joke. It was an April Fool's announcement. I thought for sure was a joke from Cloudflare.
So that wasn't a joke.
It wasn't a joke.
Oh, I thought it was.
So Cloudflare announced. Yeah, I know. I thought it was too. Cloudflare announced a new DNS service, 1.1.1.1. And the idea would be that you would replace your internet service providers. Let me go to the Cloudflare blog post instead of the
So it's like
CNET
OpenDNS
story.
then?
Yes. You would replace your DNS with this. There's others. There's Quad 9. This one's privacy-focused, and I think it's kind of interesting because certainly Cloudflare has the bandwidth to do this. They do DDoS protection for people. They have a CDN. They have probably more bandwidth than almost anybody. 1.1.1 would continue to use an existing authoritative DNS service Cloudflare provides, but it'd be open to the public. It's encrypted. It uses HTTPS, which not all DNS does, and it keeps your ISP from seeing what you're doing. So it protects your privacy. It doesn't have any other features like Quad 9, malware protection or anything like that.
Whitelists, can you do that on that?
Oh, that's a good question. I wasn't able to set it up because it's surprisingly very busy right now.
I set up in the afternoon, and I think I had been using OpenDNS on this MacBook, and I really did immediately see pages loading a lot faster.
That's good,
because I think they say that when you see the numbers that they are giving for how much faster it is than competing services, it doesn't look that much faster. But then when you realize that when you go to like NewYorkTimes.com, you're not just getting you're not just resolving NewYorkTimes.com, you're resolving like 30 different ad networks and 30 different tracker sort of URLs. So yeah, I noticed an immediate speed up. So it's going to stay that way until inevitably I start researching here's how the 1.1.1.16 CAM worked articles.
Performance is what Cloudflare is all about. They are, by the way, we should mention a sponsor. We are big fans. I've known their CTO, John Graham, Cumming for many years. The blog post, which, yes, Matthew Prince, the CEO, wrote on April Fool's Day and admitted, I understand you're going to think this is phony, but after all, when better to announce 1.1.1.1 than 4.1?
Because there are 4 1s.
Yeah.
Oh. Also, I like his PR team gets a shout out in the next paragraph. He's like, my PR team can remind me that Gmail launched April 1st, but it wasn't Sunday and it wasn't Easter.
That's
just go for it, man.
Yeah.
Do you?
Do you? So I think this is going to be very interesting to watch. I'm sure Steve Gibson will cover it a little bit. I'll probably shift everything to 1.1. I use OpenDNS like you, Andy, but if it's faster, I think this is a kind of really cool. Thank you, Cloudflare, for providing this. They said they got the 1. From APNIC, the Asia Pacific NIC, and apparently they had it. And AP, their research group, had 1.1.1.1 and 1.001. But the addresses were valid, but many people had entered them into various random systems. They were continuously overwhelmed by a flood of garbage traffic. It's just too easy to enter 4 ones, right? APNIC wanted to know where it's coming from, so the deal was Cloudflare said, let us do this. APNIC said, that's a great idea, and we will give you information on the garbage traffic you're getting in exchange for being able to put the DNS resolver there. So I have to say, this is good.
Did you have a lot of disclosure about what they're going to be doing with the data?
Do you not trust them? You're right. That's a
even if we did trust them, what is their retention policy? Are they going to be flushing it once a month, once a week?
Good question.
The page does note that they have an outside company that's going to be auditing their data to keep them on the up and up. So if you don't trust them, you hopefully can start to trust the other companies.
And after all, Cloudflare's business is not selling advertising, right? It's not. Yes. It's not spying on us. So they're just. I mean, their business model's not built around it. And they've been known to be very good citizens, I think, on the internet. They really support people. They got a little bit of heat because Daily Stormer was running through Cloudflare. Yeah. And at first, Matthew Prince said, I think in a quite principled way, look, we don't want to be responsible for editing the internet. And we offer this service to anybody, and this is, but eventually I think the pressure, he decided, all right, we're going to make an exception. This is one case where we are going to yank the Daily Stormer, and he did. But I understand his reluctance because that's a slippery slope, isn't it?
Well, he said we should not have this power, but he said he woke up angry and just wanted to get him off the internet. Yeah. And I can kind of grok both sides of it, and he also has to run the business. He's not responsible for the health and safety of the entire internet, and he has to take care of his company, but I'm glad I don't have that responsibility and have a day-to-day basis because people would come at you with all sorts of things. That they don't
and apparently it didn't open a can of worms, which I think would be a reasonable fear. Yet. Well, that was like a year ago.
No, that can't be a year ago.
Oh gosh, yeah, I think so.
Oh dear heavens!
I can't believe it's been a year since you got a job. So.
Thanks, Leo.
Crunchbase News is a year old.
It turned a year old in the middle of March.
That's nice. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. In fact, if you go, I guess you can go to 1.1.1.1 as a web page, and they explain a little bit more of the service there. So, and it does say, we will never sell your data or use it to target ads, period. And I'm having my usual browser. You are 2 minutes away from browsing a faster, more private internet. So this is actually a good page for explaining it. We will never log your IP address. There's your answer, Wesley.
But also, if you don't ever sign like a term of service,
how would they know it's you?
Yeah,
right. They could attach it to your IP address. That's it. Which is, by the way, what your internet service provider is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And they know who you are.
But there's also no proof that you signed a disclosure, so you never have to say, if I don't agree to it, then they can't do anything with your data.
That's a good point. Yeah. And KPMG has been retained to audit annually. I think this is great. Good job. Yeah. You know what? Crazy to announce this on April Fool's Day, but I want to be the first to say it's real. And Andy, you verified it by trying it, and congratulations. That's really nice. Thank you, Matthew and Cloud.
And there's no competing news today. None. Because no one else was going to launch anything on April 1st. So good to them.
Is that true? Were there no launches of any kind today?
Sunday and...
Yeah,
well, I couldn't even buy pancakes this morning. Everything was closed. 2 different diners were closed.
In that case, for pancakes. Let's just go home.
Yeah. There you go.
Nothing to talk about. Thank you, everybody. And
good luck with the ad reads.
Well, let's tell you the truth. Twit is here to separate the ad reads. Basically, that's that's why we're going to keep going. Otherwise, I just have to do 4 ads in a row.
No jokes. That'd be terrible.
That'd be no fun. Mr. Huggy in our chat room, always a reliable source, said, I did a DNS benchmark on 1. And 1.0, and Quad 9 was faster. But remember, that's at your place. So it's going to vary with everybody. Steve Gibson offers a benchmark for DNS for free on his website, grc.com. I think it'd probably be sensible to try different places and see what you get. Quad 9 does something different anyway than Quad 1. Quad 1 already. We already got a nickname for Quad 1. Did anybody watch the Apple event on Tuesday? Did you?
Well, we couldn't watch it because it wasn't live streamed.
Later. Yeah, Andy was there. You watched it in person. You could watch it.
It was in Chicago.
So here we are a few days later. I have to say that the response has in general been fairly lukewarm. There's some people excited that you can now use a Apple Pencil on an iPad for $329 on the low-end iPad. That's about it, though, right? I don't hear people jumping up and down about the new software offerings. I haven't talked to a lot of educators. Andy, have you heard from anybody about what the education folks are saying about Apple's announcements?
Well, there have always been really two groups of people inside education: the ones who really, they whatever curriculum they have or whatever goals they have for the classroom, and certainly whatever budget they have for the classroom, makes an iPad at least a possible sort of thing for the class to have. And the ones for whom it's just not relevant. It's and we're not talking about, oh, I favor this over the other. It's, I mean, an iPad is just not relevant, and because they're dealing with core curriculums, they have they're dealing with requirements for purchasing that really say that if this device does not have a built-in keyboard, you can't buy them, because our schools need devices with keyboards. And to say nothing of how closed the system is for Apple, how smaller the marketplace of workers for IT and for content developers are. You can get basically anybody who knows how to make content for a web browser can develop for Chrome. However, you need an iOS developer to give you customized content for your iPad. However, the ones that do have those resources are really, really pleased about it, because Apple's goal wasn't to try to fight back against Chromebook. It was to make sure that if people are predisposed to getting iPads in their classrooms, they're going to Apple wanted to try to remove as many of the obstacles as they could possibly do. And there were so many obstacles.
Does anyone ever do studies to see if this even helps kids? I mean, I would assume that if you have access to more technology, you'll do better. But is it $330
not
better, $500 better? Like,
well, I also wonder if you don't have.
Maybe
the other question is, if you don't have access to, if you never learn about technology in school, are you at a disadvantage when you get into the workforce?
I mean, and compared to a Chromebook.
Is it better than what Google puts
If you
out?
ask me, I'll be the first to say it. I don't think Apple makes any sense in education. The Chromebook makes much more sense in education. Not only is it cheaper, it's got a better IT management story to tell. It's more robust. It's got a keyboard, and more importantly to me, it's more open. I think my biggest problem with iPad and Classroom is iPad is a closed environment. You're buying into an ecosystem, and the only way it's going to work is if you're Apple everywhere. Of course, that's good for Apple, but I don't think that's good for education.
But it would make more sense if that approach it actually works better in terms of learning,
like
and
if you
educating
could
kids.
prove,
Yeah.
The studies I've seen haven't said that the school systems that were using education based on iPads were doing better than Chromebooks. But there's so many variables associated with that. It really depends on how really, really worked up was the school system was about having an iPad-based curriculum, or they didn't do more focused things like, what if we have Chromebooks for most of the school, but there are one or two tracks, like there's a learning lab, there's a language lab or a science lab or a physics lab that will have a cart of iPads inside the room. So I think if you're looking, and to say nothing of the fact that when Apple did big deals with the state of Maine, when they did big deals with Los Angeles, it wound up being huge disasters. And these were the every kid gets an iPad sort of solutions that I don't think the iPad is really well suited for.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine what point in time in high school it would have been better for me to have an iPad as opposed to a Chromebook, or kind of an equivalent. And I can't think of a single example.
I got some really interesting emails from people who said, "You're old." I get that one every day, but you're old and you think you still need a keyboard. Kids today don't need keyboards. I find that very hard to believe.
Do they not create anything?
You need to write. If you're going to get a job, even 10 years from now, I can't imagine that you'll not be at some point writing reports and memos and things. I can't imagine that. Maybe I am.
If you want to write code using handwriting,
Go
more
be
power
my
to you.
guest.
I don't think that's going to work in your class. No, I mean, people, again, there's a really good argument to be made that touchscreens are super relevant because just like my first interaction with a computer was touching a keyboard, and then the generation after me, the first interaction was by touching a mouse or a trackpad, and then the generations after that, their first interaction with a computer was touching a sheet of glass, touching a touchscreen. So it's not as though that's irrelevant, but the thing is, nothing has ever really gotten rid of the basic trinity of keyboard, mouse, and screen for the core computer experience. So if you're going to have something that your entire curriculum is going to be based around, if you're going to be creating a plan by which each one of your students has access to a computer, it really has to be something along the lines of a laptop. Ideally, something that in the advertising for it basically boasts of how many ounces of milk you can spill into the keyboard before it starts to have a problem.
Yeah. There's still a heavy lift for teachers where they have to figure this out, how they're going to use it the most effective.
I also got emails because I was talking about that, and Apple does have Teacher Tuesday in the Apple stores, but I think Apple needs to do more than that. They had in 2014 a $100 million fund to help schools and get equipment and teach teachers. I think that's really important. $100 million doesn't seem like a lot. I think they need to commit more, and I don't know if they've added to that fund since then. The LA Unified School District wanted to buy 1 billion iPads, $1 billion worth of iPads. $1 billion worth of iPads.
That was an amazing verbal typo.
There is a big difference, but $1 billion's a big number either way you look at it. And they end up suing both Apple and Pearson, the company that was supposed to make the curriculum and never did. And they got a fairly hefty settlement, a several $100 million settlement in all this. This was a famous failure.
But if the Chromebooks are going
to
take over more of the education market than the iPads will, which seems to be kind of our consensus here, are we seeing kind of a repeat of the old school Mac versus PC argument from the early 90s? Because I feel like they're going to give away most of the market to the cheaper, less quote quality products and then take over kind of the niche, smaller part of the market that's more specialized. iPads are great, but I mean...
No, I think what I think is that Apple is reverting to the basic Apple playbook, which is to, especially with the Mac, they understand that there's no way that they're going to ever have more than 10 or 12% of the market, and so their job is to sell Macs and MacBooks to that 12% of the people for whom Windows either doesn't work for them, or they don't like them, or they were never going to be. They're not adaptable for Windows anyway, and make sure that those people who buy those 12% of the people get the best experience that those 12% possibly can. So I think that that's where they're going for education now, where they know that they really can't compete with Chromebooks, but there is maybe going to be, I don't know, 5%, 6%, 7% of schools that have a place for iPads in their curriculum, and let's make sure that those 5, 6, 7% will have the best experience possible. They'll say that there's a reason why we went iPad and not Chromebook. It's not because they were interchangeable. It was because we have plans for using a computer in education, at least for this track, for this class, that really couldn't be met by a Chromebook. So that's why when I saw the immediate response that, oh, well, this is not going to save Apple's experience in education, it's not going to matter. I agree with both of those things. But I don't think that was. Right. Remember that Apple has the minority of phones out there. They seem to be making a pretty good chunk of change off the iPhone anyway, so it works for them.
Yeah, number 2 is very profitable, but they did cut the price of the Apple Pencil from $99 to $89 for education. Now that is a hefty discount.
Yeah. Well, multiply that by 500, multiply it by 1,000, and then translate that into how many iPads you can now buy with the money you saved. Really, in the people, that's why you also can't complain about the race to the bottom, so to speak, on Chromebooks. That if you can save $10 on a Chromebook, again, when you're buying 500, 1,000 of these, that means that suddenly 40 kids get Chromebooks that wouldn't have been able to get them before. So yeah, but the other big thing though is that with the addition of Apple Pencil to this $329 consumer 32 gigabyte iPad with a modern CPU, I finally feel as though Apple at least has a credible answer to the question, why doesn't Apple have any computers for people who are in the budget range? It's not a replacement for a notebook, but at least you can say it's not nothing. It's not a water soluble computer thrown together just to make a certain price point. It's actually a really good computer that gives an experience that a $300 and $400 Windows machine or Chromebook can't deliver. I would still love to see them make a MacBook that is affordable. I don't think we're ever going to see that, but I'm glad to see that they're bringing good features to the bottom of the line iPad at least.
I'll take that argument. And I didn't think of the small dollar differential over a multi-unit kind of buy being that important, but you're right. So I was being a bit rude, but still, a $10 discount, they can do better than that. Why not cut it like $20?
Well, they have the Crayola one, right?
Yeah, the $50.
The Logitech, yeah.
Crayon or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Do we think that's cool? Do we think it's going to be useful, or is that just kind of like
It's cheaper.
I mean, yeah, but if you're buying an iPad that can run a pencil and you're not a student, why would you buy the cheaper one?
Andy, did you get a demo of the Logitech? Because it is not a full Apple Pencil experience.
It's
right?
not a full Apple Pencil. You get it doesn't have pressure sensitivity, although you can
None
use
at
the
all?
side of it. I don't believe so.
Wow.
It has one but not the other. Also, it really wasn't designed to be used with any other iPad except for this one. This really was designed to be used with
Because
education.
it's not Bluetooth. It's using
Right,
some,
exactly.
Yeah, and that's
and
an
a lot of
education requirement. That has to do
Exactly.
with
There-
tests and so forth.
Right. That's the same reason why you can't just add a Bluetooth keyboard to an iPad and meet the requirement that a computer in the school has to have a keyboard. They really are concerned that if you have Bluetooth active, then kids who are using these during exams are going to use Bluetooth to swap answers, which would totally have happened when I was a kid. We went to the store and bought those Sharp. I remember for one exam we actually bought those Sharp data bank watches that actually attached to a keyboard because the store had a 30-day return policy. So we cleaned out our savings accounts, bought these watches, and loaded up the watches with like all the dates and times and things.
Okay. This confirms that Andy went to a school for weird kids.
or awesome kids.
Yeah, exactly. We were technology oriented.
Technology oriented.
And there's the Chrome tablet that comes with the stylus.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a number of Chrome tablets. The Samsungs come with a stylus. Of course, the Pixelbook does.
Yeah.
But the new Acer one,
Does that new Acer tablet, the weirdly coincidentally priced $329 Acer Chromebook tablet, that comes with a stylus,
And
too.
it slides inside.
Comes with a stylus.
And it slides inside. No
Slides
loop.
inside. You don't have to pay extra for it, and it's Wacom compatible, so it's not as though it's a hacked off solution.
I really feel like schools should embrace something more open than the Apple ecosystem. I think it's, of course, sexy and desirable, and I'm sure a lot of kids would jump for joy that they were getting an iPad. Although one of the problems the LA Unified School District had is the kids immediately hacked the iPads. So now I'm sure Apple has a better system now, but at the time in 2014, the Apples had a profile for the kid that would lock it down, and the kid found out, well, you just go in settings, delete the profile, you can do anything you want.
That is some really weak OPSEC.
It's pretty weak.
Even I know that's bad. I know nothing about security.
Yeah. I can understand. I think the ideal situation, if money weren't an issue, but money obviously is a huge issue in education, would be to have some iPads and some Chromebooks and have a variety, right? Heterogeneous.
Just to dissect frogs. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
My question is during the demo, it looked like you could like make the skin translucent, and make the muscles translucent. You can see the heart beating. My question is, are we training these kids to become vivisectionists? I want to see that dying, beating heart as I peel layers of flesh away from this God's creature.
Did you do that
I
in
now have
school,
power
Andy,
over.
in your weird kid school?
No, we
did
waited for them to be properly pickled. I can still smell the frog.
Yeah, I remember the formaldehyde, but we also had live frogs because one of the this is now in hindsight I'm going, oh my god, because one of the experiments was you'd open it up, the heart would be beating, and then you'd inject it with norepinephrine or adrenaline to see how it affected the.
Yeah, we would call that cruel now.
I don't think they would do that anymore.
No, PETA will be all over that.
Also, you're much tougher than I am because when we did that, we had just little squids that were dead. We had to dissect, and I was such a wuss. I had to run out of the room and nearly vomit because I couldn't take it. So I'm glad I didn't get the a live frog beating heart injection game because I think
so.
That
None of you had a live frog.
No.
Did anybody in the chat room have a live frog? Maybe this is
maybe your science teacher was just a little bit weird, Leo.
Maybe you went to the weird kid school.
I think it was me. It was my school. It was weird.
We're going to have a field trip to St. Sebastian's Cemetery. There's been a recent funeral. I'm going to need 9 of you that can lift, 2 that can dig, and there will be no permission slips because we're not going to be telling your parents what we're doing that night.
And we're looking for brains from someone named Abby Normal. See if you can find that one. Our chat room, Senior Gravy in our chat room says, my local district had white MacBooks. The IT called them mobile porn studios. There you go. That's what we need it for. We're going to take a little break, come back with more. Our esteemed panel, Alex Wilhelm from Crunchbase News, editor-in-chief there. His title belies his youth, but you are a dignified, good-looking fella.
Well, that's kind. I'm going to say nothing about that.
Nothing. Say nothing. Say nothing. Also, brand new and great to have him, Wesley Faulkner from Austin, Texas. He's marketing manager at FSG at Wesley83. Is that when that's your Twitter handle? Is that when
It's a secret. I don't disclose what the 83 stands for.
It's not when you were born.
Nope. Man of mystery.
Graduated from high school?
Nope.
All right. He's not going to say anything, is he?
Football number?
Football number.
Nope.
Oh, damn. And Andy Anako and I, who have no football number. Andy Anako, of course, from Chicago. Oh, I said it. From Celestial Waste of Bandwidth.
Veteran technology journalist, formerly of the Chicago Sun.
Technology journalist. So your piece on that event, by the way, was in Fast Company this week.
Yep.
So let's all point him there. Can I say from Fast Company?
No, I don't. I haven't settled on a forever home yet, but hopefully we'll do some more stuff.
A life journey.
They informed me I did not stink up the jug so much as
no, it's really good
stuff with them.
I liked it. I thought it was even-handed, well thought out, and as always, well written. And I like it that they Fast Company very kindly put next to your byline, long read. Is that a warning? This is a long one, folks.
I will happily take that as like my middle name, like sort of hash name, Andy Long Read and Not Go.
Andy Long Read and Not Go in the house. Our show today brought to you by my friends. Actually, they're going to be in the house next week, I think. The Tim and Don from IT Pro TV. Love these guys. They came to me some years ago. They were IT trainers, and they had been at a panel I was on at NAB, in which I'm kind of promoting the idea of TWiT and what we do, and there should be lots of niche, internet-based, basically TV stations. And they came up and said, would you mind if we basically did what you do for IT training? I said, mind? I think that'd be awesome. IT Pro TV was born. And man, is it effective. Now 90,000 members strong. Not just individuals, a lot of teams as well. I know the Harvard IT department signed up for IT Pro TV. It's great if you're not yet in IT, but you want to take the tests, get the certs, and get that first job in IT. And that's kind of the initial idea of it. But it also is a great way to keep your skills up to date, to add new skills, to get new certs. And man, do they have a lot of content. 3,300 hours of on-demand content. And they're always making more. They have 5 studios now. They're doing 125 new hours every single week. They do much as you can see in the video if you're watching it, much as we do. They have really cool-looking studios, great teachers and presenters, and a chat room going at the same time so you can interact with the teachers as they're giving the courses. There's Don. And it's really a great training class. From CompTIA to Cisco to AWS, even things like Kali Linux and Certified Ethical Hacker, they have you covered. This is a great field to get into. If you're listening to this show, I know you're into tech. If you're thinking about a career change, did you know there are 1 million open jobs in security, in IT security, right now, awaiting for somebody? Get the certs, get the skills, get the job. You can watch IT Pro TV on anything you've got. They've got Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV apps. They've got Android apps, iOS apps. You can watch on a Chromecast. You can even download courses for on-the-go learning. This is not one of those boring voiceover slides snooze fest. This is engaging, interactive IT training. Your team and you will actually enjoy watching. And by the way, if you have a team, the team portal is great. You get control over the schedule, and you can track results. You can see metrics like logins, viewing time, courses viewed, tracks completed. If you're looking for a more engaging way to keep your team up to date, or you want to accelerate your career, IT Pro TV. Go to itpro.tv/twit. You can learn more about the team solution and request a free team trial. And, of course, there's individual monthly memberships. If you want to try it as an individual, go to itpro.tv/twit and use the offer code TWIT30. And you can see there the blue button, Start My Free Trial, and you get 7 days to try it, unlimited access to the site, all the features. And if you decide to subscribe, 30% off your subscription for as long as you stay active. Forever, in other words. As long as you're still active, and you probably will stay active, because even when you get that perfect job, you're going to want to add skills. A premium, just to give you a sense, a premium subscription, and that's the top of the line. That includes the Transcender practice exams. That's worth, I think, $90 by itself. The virtual labs, which means you don't have to have, say, Windows Server 2019 is coming out, right? You don't have to have it. All you need is an HTML5 browser, and you can set up the servers, set up the clients. I like that because when I screw things up, and I always do, I just close the browser window and no one will know. No harm, no foul. Premium subscriptions include the virtual labs, the Transcender practice exams. Normally that'd be $857 a year, which I still think is a great price. But use the offer code TWIT30, $600 a year, $50 a month. That's cheaper than buying the materials, let alone going to a technical school. This is better. Flexible training, binge-worthy content, ROI proven. itpro.tv/twit. Use the offer code TWIT30 and join the 90,000 folks now learning to be IT professionals at itpro.tv. On we go with the show. Let's see. We did April Fool's Day. We did Apple's event. I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know if I have this article. I saw that the FBI, remember the San Bernardino shooter where the FBI went to Apple and said, unlock the phone? It might have been an internecine battle going on because one division of the FBI said, oh, yeah, we could unlock it. But they just never told the other division. FBI sued Apple to unlock phones, says TechCrunch, without considering all the options. Apparently, it really was more about getting the word out and getting some heat on Apple than actually unlocking that phone. We thought it might be the case, right?
I would do the same, wouldn't you?
Oh, can you turn on Wesley's mic?
Oh,
there
we go. Hello? I said I would do the same thing, too. Like if you
Wait a minute.
If I was in their position, if I could add another tool to my toolbox.
Right. Why not?
Why not do it?
Why not sue?
Yeah. But they made a big stink about this, that they had to have it. It was national security and all of this. I mean, come on. You can't tell me that and sell me that and then have it be a lie and expect me to really believe you the next time.
It is bad for the FBI. The FBI needs to be credible, right? And
it was plausible deniability.
This was from the Office of the Inspector General. This is an investigation of the FBI. Mm-hmm. So it's not like some journalist dug it up.
No, the OIG did.
The OIG. Yeah.
I hear they're plugged into what's going on over there.
They know. So I think this is a bad thing to do, to hit an agenda as opposed to a real need. You're right. From a tactical point of view,
and it only came out because they lost, right?
That's not encouraging.
But it's just like if
you wouldn't have known if I hadn't lost. I would have gone away with it too. It wasn't for your meddling kids.
Yeah. If they just gambled, they thought it's a really good upside, really big upside. It's a perfect case. It's terrorists. Why wouldn't you do it? I mean,
truthfully, Wesley, we even knew that was happening.
Yeah,
we were saying.
There was no way this was the one time they absolutely had to have access. But Andy, you were saying something.
No, I was going to say they really want this precedent. They really want this to be tried in court. They really want a judge to say that the FBI has a right to that the makers of technology have an obligation to break through encryption. Mm-hmm. At the same time this came out, the FBI was once again throwing their shorts on fire about how important it is that this is a dark moment for law enforcement because Google and Facebook and Apple and they're all in cahoots with criminals and allowing them to continue to do their jobs. They're also citing things that turned out to be really just research from certain people who are saying that there is a way to do some sort of a backdoor that would be only a disaster, not a complete, utter, unmitigated disaster. Or other researchers that are saying there might be a way that you could put a backdoor encryption on live communications like live chat, texting, video streaming, but you could have a different sort of encryption on file encryption so that you could protect one but not the other. But that once again really shows you they are going to keep at this, and they're going to keep at this until they get a judge to say those magic words. Apple, you are commanded by the federal judge, by this federal judge, to help the FBI crack open this phone, and then God help us all.
Well, right. I mean, because every single person that I know who works in security who actually knows anything about this says you cannot create a magical backdoor that only the FBI can open. It is a weakness. It will be exploited by other people.
Though?
Okay.
So and we talked about this last week, but not with you guys. So I'll bring it up again. There was a National Academy of Sciences panel. Ray Ozzie was on it. Former chief software architect at Microsoft, Stefan Savage. I'm going to call it that because that's a good name. It could be Savage. Stefan Savage. Computer science professor at UC San Diego, Ernie Brickell, former CSO at Intel. And they proposed that it might be, what if, here's a question for you guys. What if there were a way to create a secure enclave on a phone that had a key that Apple, let's say, could unlock, that would only unlock that phone? So the law enforcement goes to Apple, says, we want this phone unlocked. It would not extend to Wesley's phone or your phone or anybody else's. It would just to the bad guy's phone. What if we could do that? Wouldn't that
I'd still be against it.
Like
I
a
still don't
hardware
support it.
access only? Like physical access?
Yeah, well, okay. So, yeah, presume they have access to the phone because you have to have access to get the enclave opened up. So it's a double key. Imagine a safe. And there's a strong box outside the safe that has a key in it. Only Apple has the key to that key. Right. That key unlocks just that safe. Apple, upon being provided with a appropriate process, now that may be an issue too after the Cloud Act, but let's set that aside. Apple, with being provided with an appropriate warrant, says, okay, we're going to unlock that box here, law enforcement. This is the key, but it's not, as we have been concerned about, the key to all the phones. It's just the key to this phone.
But then China, Russia.
Right.
That's
I was going to
problem.
say, you build this for the U.S. government, you have to build it for everybody, and therefore no Apple device is going to work and be safe anywhere in the world. That messes with journalists, activists, dissidents.
Yep.
You know,
And we have the
Democratic
Cloud Act
revolutionaries.
now,
Yeah.
which is the law.
Which is bad.
And the bad people will still find a better basically use just illegal encryption to get their job done.
Right.
For me, though, it's a much bigger thing. I think that this is a foundational principle that we've never, at least in this country, in 200 and some odd years, we have never had to answer this question before because it's never been possible to have a real secret from the government before that's been written down. Do you have the right to have a secret from the government?
Yes.
And so all laws preceding this are based on if you put it in a safe, then we can blow up the safe and get it. So we're going to let you put it in the safe, or we're going to let you shred it because we can put that back together again. We will not stop you from trying to secure or destroy your data now. But if there's a way for me to encrypt my data such that law enforcement cannot get it for me, when the FBI says that this should not be allowed. To me, and I'm not saying this in a stockpiling toilet paper and canned goods in a shack in the woods way, I feel as though this is overreach from the government. I feel as though I have the right to have a secret that the government cannot get if I choose to protect it in that fashion. It doesn't matter what that secret is. So that's why, in addition to all the far more simple reasons that, again, if you think that only the good guys are going to be able to get at this data, you're wrong. It just will fail eventually. I just think that it's a basic right that if I want to lock something up so that I can have a secret that the government cannot get, that's a basic right. It's scary to me if the government say you're not allowed to write something down that we can't read. That's bad.
I mean, we have a right to privacy as interpreted by the Supreme Court, right? It's a very important bit of our kind of court law, and I think we should respect that. And
Not
I think
in the Constitution, but it
was read
there
from
is-
the Constitution, right?
There's court precedent.
It's not an exact phrase, but also if you read back to 1984, I know it's everyone's favorite example of this, you cannot even in your apartment, Winston can't actually get away from the screen that can see him, right? And that's that constant feeling of being watched. I think you're right. If you don't have the ability to put something away yourself, nothing feels secure, and you'll definitely act differently. It's poisonous. And it's anti-democratic. It's bad.
It's also the panopticon, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, the panopticon was this 19th century conception that you could build a prison where prisoners wouldn't know whether they're being observed or not, but they could assume that at some point they were being observed. And so they acted as if they were always being observed. And in the mind of the jailers, that meant that they would always behave. But of course, as we know, that's not how it works out when it happens.
No, but I think a lot of us maybe watching right now are not as full of confidence in our government as we have been in recent half decades, say. And so the idea of giving out these tools to, I don't know, even our own government right now seems very terrifying, let alone in the foreign government example.
By the way, just a side note, not really related, but the guy who conceived of the panopticon, Jeremy Bentham, you can see him stuffed in New York right now. There's
His body stuffed.
Yeah.
They let him travel. He's normally in a cabinet in his alma mater.
Yeah,
Wait,
Cambridge or somewhere. But
is this a joke?
No.
Is the head traveling with them too, or just the body?
the whole thing.
So he's like Lennon? Just kind of bring him out once a year and like, Bentham, here it is.
So I think it's just his bones. inside a case. I'm not sure. This is very weird.
He decided, he was a philosopher, and he decided that he wanted to be stuffed and mounted so that his friends could still see him, kind of in a funny way. He actually he was planning this throughout his whole life. As a matter of fact, he had like the eyes that would be, of course, the eyes are going to go nuts, go crazy in the head after he dies. But he had glass eyes made. He used to carry them around with him and show them, these are going to be my eyes after I die.
Yeah, and this is why utilitarian philosophers are not really kind of dinner party invites. That's why they don't go outside much.
University College London. There's Jeremy in his case, but it is in New York now. There is an exhibit at I think it's at the Museum of Modern Art, and he's part of that exhibit.
That's the worst thing I've seen all day. That's terrifying.
You know how they could get him in. He didn't have any social media footprint that the INS could check.
Oh, let's talk about that. You want to talk about government overreach? This was entered into the Federal Register this week, so it's not yet the rule of the land. But I think this is. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not sure what the rules are, but I think this is the first step to making it a rule of the land. Customs and Border Patrol is going to ask any, let me see if I can find the notice.
Visa applicants.
Any visa applicant. This is even if a tourist visa. This is not just to live here.
Permanent residency, but
this is just somebody who wants to visit.
Yep.
Would be required to hand over 5 years worth of social media postings.
Well, their accounts.
Their accounts.
Yes. Account identifiers, phone numbers they've used in the past 5 years. I was pleased to see that it doesn't include passwords, so they can check your private messages. Even so, okay.
Well, you're assuming they can't with warrants and subpoenas and.
I mean, that'd be too much
all
work,
they would need is
though.
the username, right?
On a per, you couldn't do that for every single person. That'd be too much work. You couldn't get a subpoena for each one. But
the online application for a non-immigrant visa would include, and by the way, it's submitted electronically over an encrypted connection, by the way. So the applicant will be instructed to provide social media information, their accounts, email addresses, and phone numbers used over the past 5 years. Whether the applicant's been deported or removed from any country, whether specified family members have been involved in terrorist activities, all that I understand. But really, they need the tweets. They need all the tweets. And that is going to be, you said you saw Chris Saad.
Yes.
Or you talked to him.
I talked to him, yeah.
He's in Australia. Former head of product at Uber. He's back down in his home country. But what was his reaction?
He said, I won't be in the U.S. for a while, which also makes sense because they're not just looking at your profile when you give an account. They look at every profile you've ever associated with. And what if you're a third degree connected to a terrorist you wouldn't necessarily know?
Well, and by the way, if you were a terrorist, would you be tweeting, I can't wait to come to the U.S. and blow things up?
Maybe in your DMs.
DMs. Now, they don't get access to those.
No. They have access to your username. Who knows if
they go to Twitter and say.
If there is this, like, deep vetting that's supposed to be coming through for certain countries, they might have, like, a blanket, say they're not American citizens. So
right. They don't have the same protections. Yeah. This would affect 14 million visa applications a year.
That's insane.
Yeah. And it would take time.
I don't know if it makes us safer. Yeah. That's the real question.
I don't remember my MySpace username.
I mean, I don't think they want that one.
I said 5 years, any accounts that, I mean.
Oh, geez. I wouldn't even know all the sites I've joined for a day. But, like, I just deleted, about 2 months ago, like, all my tweets.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was on Twitter since I was like 17, and I didn't want those following me around for life. Like back in 2008,
is there a button that you can push that says delete all your tweets?
There's an app called Tweetaside. I think it's like $3 in the App Store. And,
Tweetaside.
Yeah, Ryan Lawler got me on that.
I committed tweet. So if I'm the Department of Border Protection, I'm not going to let you into the country at all because who knows what was in those tweets? You're hiding something.
Well,
Wilhelm.
I got a bunch of. I got
what kind of name is Wilhelm anyway?
It's German.
Yeah. Okay. You're not getting in.
Okay. No, but the cool thing is if you just delete your tweets, what are they going to do about that?
Well,
I mean, like they presume your social media accounts will maintain their fidelity.
Well, it's deleted from your end, right?
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
This is not, I mean, they have been doing this for applicants selected for extra scrutiny. Have you ever been selected for extra scrutiny?
Yes, I have.
Yes, they write SS.
I married her.
You married extra scrutiny?
Oh no! Oh, you're talking about.
That's the first mouse joke of the day.
Pickup line. Hi, Wesley. I'd like some extra scrutiny.
It worked.
No, I'm talking about CPB.
Oh, okay.
CBP. Well, you're okay. Now, I feel like we talked yesterday to a family. We get a lot of visitors from all over the world. Yesterday, we had a family visiting for Berlin. I asked them. They said, yeah, we would be much less likely to come to the U.S. Tourism is down 30 or 40% because of this stuff that's going on. Daniel, you came from Sweden. If they asked you that the next time you come to this country, would you think twice about coming here? Maybe, maybe not. You might. It seems like it would be a deterrent to some people. And maybe even, I mean, look, people are deleting Facebook for no apparent reason.
For actually many apparent reasons. Very
Evident
obvious reasons why people are leaving Facebook.
So this has been going on in the past, but they're asking now, apparently 65,000 people last year got this extra scrutiny. But they're asking now that they could do it for all 14 million. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily, they have the information. Would they use it? I don't know. Obviously, they can't. You're right.
No, but Wesley's absolutely right. It's not about hey, look, this person is a member of a Twitter group or a Facebook group that is known to be sending terrorists abroad. It really is about these enforcement agencies are trying to convince themselves that they can predict invisible future terrorists based on who they've been colluding with and where they've been traveling in the past. And so it really does, even though person X traveling through the country is absolutely no threat whatsoever, that could be the reason why 5 years later on, another innocent person Y gets detained and gets special searching. And now they don't know why they're in this database that causes them to never be able to get back into the country again or to be held for 3 hours at a checkpoint because some algorithm has said that you are in some sort of Venn diagram of people that has had enough incidental contact without even their knowledge with people that we think are terrorists that we can't trust these people. They'll never find out about it. They'll never be able to fix it, and they'll never be able to escape it. So that's why this stuff can be really scary.
This proposal went up on Friday. It is a 60-day notice. You can actually comment, and I hope people will by going to regulations.gov.
That helps with internet privacy, right?
And and search for docket number DOS 2018-002. I see there are a total of 10 public comments so far. So we're just really on our way.
Well, they dropped it on Friday before a holiday and religious weekend.
10.
And that's a great way to stuff it away from the news cycle, right? This is why Tesla announced that its recent crash had autopilot turned on at Friday.
That's true.
Like
Friday of the long weekend.
It's called taking out the trash. So you do with any story you don't want, you just drop it when everyone's home. I mean, it's smart. It's also frustrating. I mean, this is a huge policy change. And back to Andy's comment, I don't want the government to really build this muscle. This is not something I want them to get good at. I mean, this is a relatively early look at what they could do with this down the road for all of us, but it's naive or not, but I just don't want them to get better at it. It's not a good skill for the government to have.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, all 10 comments, 100. I'm just going to say this: 100% of the comments so far are very negative.
Wow,
100%.
Wait until the Russian bots find it. We'll get more
oh crap!
feedback.
Did you guys see the Snapchat April Fool's joke?
No.
All right. We're gonna go backwards a little bit.
Get out the Snapchat.
All right. So I believe, actually, Leo. Let's. I'll just tell you guys. So they did a filter that looks like Facebook, but it's in Russian, which Casey Newton from The Verge called it, quote, nuclear shade. And I thought that was the absolutely right way to describe that.
Did you see on the Silicon Valley, the TV show, it came back and the show opened. They have like all these little
doodles or whatever.
Doodles of Silicon Valley. The Facebook kind of turns into Cyrillic and then back. Although, if you look at it closely, it's not all Cyrillic. There's one Turkish character in there. It's very strange. I don't know if that's what that is, but it looks like Facebook in Russia.
Yeah. It looks. I mean, there's been a lot of good shade against Facebook in the last couple of weeks, and again,
it's a little bit
to your earlier comment, deserved.
Yeah, but it's a little self-serving for Snapchat to do it.
Oh well, Snap loses tons of money, and Facebook makes a lot of money. I'm not going to worry about that spit fight. Whatever.
Yeah. But I'm sure a whole bunch of people went to Snapchat to go see it. Which is the point, right?
It's a great way to hack engagement in the short term. Also, it was just like, it's the only April Fool's-ish joke that I saw this cycle that was good.
Also, it lets people know if you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook.
True. True. Yeah. Which we should get to at some point in time because I have thoughts about that.
So you're not on Facebook, or what did you do?
I'm deactivated on Facebook for the last couple months, and I haven't missed it a single time. But I wasn't a big Messenger user, so I've gotten kind of lucky about that. And now Leo is taking a picture of his face. You can tell by the expression he's making. He makes the duck face.
The duck.
Yeah, I know. It's quite kissy, if I may. So if you're not watching the video, you're missing out. But that is top notch.
Apparently, I can be an Easter bunny.
Okay, keep trying.
Easter again.
It is.
I
Easter.
am a crazy clown. Where is this thing?
I saw it on Twitter. I don't use Snap.
Easter. I could be. These are the.
Are you a Snap user, Wesley?
No, never.
Never.
Am I the only hip young person in this group?
Well, that part of that
Apparently
sentence
so.
might be true.
I'm not. Oh, wait a minute. Is this it?
Did you find it?
No.
Nope.
Hello.
Remember when they say how the olds can't make Snap work?
I'm making it work.
You're better than I am.
It's just not in there. Although that is an awfully cute fuzzy puppy.
Snapchat, filter, Facebook, Russian.
Why is Karsten Bondi in here? Karsten, this is what my face looks like when it merges with yours.
So this is what it looks like with Casey Newton.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm not seeing that. But anyway, maybe they know that I'm a Red Sparrow. Did you know that?
That's that movie that came out.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Maybe they just put up one of those, like on audio, they put up in a very, very high frequency. Hi, be sure to look for there's an invisible button just center of the left.
And I
Touch
can't
this
hear
if
it.
you can hear this and you're young enough.
I can't. They would do that, wouldn't they? And all
They
you
should.
oldsters.
I'd be very pleased and impressed if they had a way to just screen out the old people by exploiting our
high-pitched.
rock concert attendance in our high school years.
Exactly. I used to be hip.
I feel like I should try out Snap again because the product is still pretty cool.
Wesley, Instagram, Facebook?
Instagram.
Not Facebook.
I'm on Facebook too.
You are.
And Twitter, of course.
And Twitter.
Yeah.
Nobody's not on Twitter, except for you're on Twitter, but no tweets.
I mean, I have thousands of new tweets.
You've committed tweet-aside.
I've committed tweet aside, but that was my peace of mind. Like I just didn't want. What if I got drunk in college and like said one dumb thing that someone's gonna find?
So you
and
didn't
dredge
go
up?
back through them. You just
There
assumed
were
there was something.
185,000 tweets, Leo, or something like that.
How did you get out of college?
I wanted to leave Chicago because it was cold.
Yeah.
So
Is this because of that reporter editor who got a promotion and in the 24 hours he was?
Oh, you're talking about Quinn Norton?
Yeah, Quinn Norton.
Who got on the editorial board of the New York Times for a hot cup of coffee.
Yeah.
it was actually 1/5 of a Scaramucci, I think, which is a pretty short period of time.
That is the shortest time I know.
Yeah, that was rough. I mean, but I think people should be just cognizant of what they put out there. I went through my Reddit account and deleted just a bunch of innocuous stuff just so you can't go back and nail that. I'm tidying up my online life intelligently, I think, for just longevity.
You're absolutely right. I'm the worst day of my life will come if the Internet Archive gets all of CompuServe back. Then I'm going to say hi. I'm going to have to move to France and enable that right to be forgotten law because CompuServe. I was 17, 18, 19, 20. I knew everything. I really did, and then I forgot most of it, and now I don't want to remember it
You
again.
can't thank GDPR because Facebook, many sites, Twitter has added it, have a delete my data button now.
Which is huge.
That's a requirement of GDPR.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible? In Europe, they actually have a concept that individuals have a right to the data that people collect on them. They can't just simply exploit them for forever. That there are limits to what Facebook and Apple and Google, all these companies can do. That's just mind-blowing to an American.
You've just created a CompuServe storm on IRC. People are remembering I remember mine, 75106,3135. Do you remember yours, Andy?
I do.
Do you want to say it out loud on the show?
He doesn't want to.
Just in case somebody has an archive.
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm happy to, anyone who went to the Comics and Animation Forum, I was heavy there. The Roger Ebert Forum, I was very heavy there.
Wow.
Other places I take to the grave with me.
It's funny. Lawn Dog was 75216,3210. Curtis B 71310, 1271. Oh, Boz is going. He says, I have my source number. Remember the source? ST4399.
What are these numbers we're talking about for people who are not?
You weren't even born.
No,
probably.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm actually just curious. Why is there a comma in the middle of your username?
Instead of having actual like usernames, your account number was like 5 digits, then a comma, and then like 3 digits, and then your name would be attached to your message. But that's how you logged in. I remember mine because I first got CompuServe when I became a columnist for a Ziff Davis magazine, like when I was like 18 or 19. And I asked, no, because CompuServe, they billed by the minute or by the, I think it was by the minute or by the hour. I said, no, how much, I know it's for like communicating with my editors and like doing research. Like how much time can I spend before I go over? And then they laughed. Said, oh, believe me, we have like a brother-sister deal with CompuServe.
Oh, nice.
There is no way you could possibly use so much CompuServe there would be a problem. And then fast forward 5 weeks later, we're like, yeah, we're using way too much CompuServe, man.
I remember actually this. I was just thinking about this yesterday, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I saw Ready Player One, so I was thinking about the old days in Atari, and I had a friend who worked at Atari who gave me his CompuServe account and said, "Use it all you want." And the reason I wanted to, this was back in the days when I had a phone and I put it on the acoustic. You don't remember the acoustic coupler? There were suction cups that were.
I remember that sound from my 56K modem.
Yeah, well, this was this didn't actually make all those sounds because it was. Don't
forget the other important part of that sound. Mom, don't take off the phone. I'm using the computer.
So I spent hours playing Colossal Cave, the text adventure, and I thank God I had the free account because that would have been thousands of dollars. Yeah, I'm sure. The gong gong is the 56K. That's why you recognize it.
See, that's what I grew up with.
You might have noticed I'm pouring myself a little glass of wine.
I see that, Leo.
The
why
show's
is that?
going downhill. No, because my Wink came. Wink is our sponsor for this portion of This Week in Tech, and it's the best way to discover new wines you will love. Wink is a winery, W-I-N-C. It's a winery, and what I love about it is it's great wine. They make wine from all over the world, and it is a great way to get to know new wines, to have wines for your, there's 4 bottles a month subscription. Of course, you can take a month off and that kind of thing, but that's just about right for me. 1 bottle a week for dinner on Fridays, right? And then maybe 1 week we bring a nice bottle of wine. This one's always popular with the weather heating up. Here's a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. This is from our most recent shipment. You might bring that to a party, like for Easter. We should bring this for the Easter dinner tonight. Outer Sounds from Marlborough, New Zealand. I love these Wink wines. We went down and we met the winemaker. Here's an Albarino, which is a really nice varietal. This one comes from California, but it's based in an Italian-style white. You can choose. Here's what I want you to do. If you go to trywinc.com, trywink.com/twit, and you can go through the taste test. They'll ask you questions. It's called a palate profile test. They'll ask you questions like, do you like coffee, or how do you like it? How do you like your coffee, Wesley? Do you drink it?
I don't drink coffee.
Do not drink it. There you go. Put that. That's on there. How do you like salt? Do you use salt? Of course you use salt.
Yes.
Yes. Do you like it on everything all the time?
No.
Citrus?
Yes.
How do you feel? Mushrooms? So you take the test.
No shrooms. Don't do shrooms.
Don't do shrooms. Okay. You don't like the earthy, but I bet you like the berries. Do you like the berries?
Yes.
Blueberry?
I do.
Yeah. And everything all the time?
Yep.
Peppers? You're from Austin. You better like the pepper. So there you go. So you go through the taste test, and then they make recommendations. There's a little slider there. You can have all red, all white, or anything in between. So you get to choose what you like. We've got a half and half here. This is from, it's called Cape Root. This is a South African wine from the Western Cape. Oh, man. So you're going to try wines you've never tried before. This is a whole lot better than going to the grocery store or Trader Joe's or even a liquor store and saying, pick that one. That's no way to choose a wine. This is great. Ooh, a little French wine. You got this one, didn't you, Lisa? She loves the French wines. A Merlot Paille d'Or from Indication Géographique Protégée Produits de France. I'm going to drink right now a little bit of this. This is something we just had. Look at I love the labels, too. They get local artists to do the labels. They're beautiful. Each month, new, delicious wines. You're going to definitely want to get that Summer Water Rosé. That is one of their most popular wines. No membership fees. You can skip any month. You can cancel any time. And shipping is covered. And here's the best part. I said, well, what if I don't like one of these? They said, no problem. I said, I don't want to ship it back. They said, no. We're not going to make you ship it back. We just send you another bottle. No questions asked. So, you're never stuck with something you don't like. You'll get 4 bottles you love every single month. Why settle for the same bottle of wine you always get? Discover great wine today. Trywink.com/twit. $20 off your first shipment. If you can buy individual bottles if you really want to taste a great wine. Leo's pick for the week. Okay? Is that okay if I do that? Field Theory. You know how much we love it? We're all out. We are all out, right? We tried to have some last night. I said I could use a glass of that Field. It comes in this cute little bottle. It's got kind of like this, but it's a red. So good. Oh, wait a minute. This is Field Theory white. They have a white. This is the Albarino Field Theory. Oh, so which one do we have? Field Theory red? Red, yeah. So good. I have to try the Albarino now. Trywink. Here's to you. Trywink.com/twit. $20 off your first shipment. TRYWINC.com. Trywink.com/twit. Oh, that is so good. You know what I realized, and I think I really can credit Wink with this, that wine is actually an ingredient in a meal. That when you have wine that's properly matched to what you're eating, you take a bite of the food and a little sip of the wine, and you guys don't understand this, but...
Oh, I do.
And you understand it way too well. And it's like an ingredient, and it can actually make the flavor just go boom in your mouth. That's probably not the best way to describe it, but that's how I'm going to do it. Trywink.com/twit. Andy, if you were here, I'd pour you a glass.
I know you would.
These are glasses that a fan brought us. These are hand-blown. It's like Venetian glass. Aren't they beautiful? He brought us like 20 of them or something, 24 of them.
Oh, I have a bottle of port and a bottle of whiskey, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But they're good. I like them. I don't have them all the time, but when I have them, I enjoy them very much.
What's your whiskey?
It's my favorite is Green Spot.
Never heard of it.
Which I find really good. It actually
Spot.
put me on to whiskey to begin with. It was a gift when I gave a talk in Dublin, Ireland. It used to be only produced it used to be you could only get it in Ireland, and they started exporting it, but you have to find a place that can get it for you. And it was so good. I sampled the glass there and was so good. I thought, okay, I'm going to pay the money to check my carry-on bag. I'm going to wrap this in lots and lots of laundry, and if my bag arrives in the United States smelling like whiskey, okay, that's just going to happen. And boy, was it worth it. So
there you go. Green Spot. It's Irish single pot still, turns out. There you go.
The guys who do the Windows Franklin, to do the Windows Carl Franklin are big. They came by and they brought all this whiskey. Remember that episode? That was not a...
I don't think anybody remembers that episode.
No. But they brought something, I think it was called the Angel's Share. The Angel's Share is the stuff that evaporates.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Also, Angel's Envy, if we're sticking to
that
theme
was
there.
it. Angel's Envy.
Angel's Envy is fantastic.
Is that that's the one? It was Angel's Envy. Thank you.
Yeah. That's that's a solid B+ on the whiskey grade.
B+?
Well, the stuff gets better. It's just very good.
We, Lisa and I were at a fancy restaurant, and I had, what is that whiskey that everybody in Silicon Valley talks about all the time? It's a silly name. Pappy.
Oh, Pappy Van Winkle.
Pappy Van Winkle.
Pappy's good.
Is it good?
I drink Pappy on both coasts.
I had a
both
Pappy.
places.
It was very, very expensive. You get like, it's not a finger, it's a fingernail.
Well, the trick is go to a restaurant where your friend is a part owner. Then drink their Pappy. That's the solution.
It was good.
That's a long play.
It was good. I don't know if it was, I don't know. Anyway, it's from Buffalo Trace whiskey.
So I wish to change my answer. My favorite kind of whiskey is complimentary.
All right.
Yes.
Tim Cook, right after the Chicago event, MSNBC recorded a roundtable with Kara Swisher and Chris Hayes. It's going to air April 6th, but I guess some people from The Verge were there, Lauren Good, writing about it. And, of course, Tim took this as an opportunity to talk about privacy. This is really going to be increasingly Apple's selling point, right?
Yes.
We don't have to care. We sell hardware. We don't have to follow you around. We don't have to surveil you. Cook, Lauren says, MSNBC's Hayes and Swisher pressed Cook on the issue of privacy and regulation. I don't know if when you throw somebody a softball, is that called pressing?
It's called helping, I think, actually.
Cook said, we've never believed that these detailed profiles of people that have incredibly deep personal information that is patched together from several sources should exist. He said they can be abused against our democracy. It can be abused by advertisers as well. See, I don't mind advertisers giving me ads for stuff I might be interested in. That's not what's worrying me.
Are they pledging that their marketing department aren't using these same tools when
That's
you
a
see
good
an Apple
question.
ad?
Yeah. You are the put the foot to the fire guy here.
I mean, I think if it's available from somewhere else, they're going to use it if they can.
He says, I think the best regulation is no regulation, self-regulation.
The corporation said that?
Tim Cook said, however, I think we're beyond that. I think it's time that a set of people think deeply about what can be done.
Yeah. I just see, I agree with what he's saying here. I definitely do. But every time he speaks about privacy and protecting user data, he always talks about Facebook. He always talks about Google. He always talks about those two big competitors. He doesn't talk about what I feel is the larger threat from advertisers and from marketers, from just being on the web, that they're collecting all these kind of data from you. And I'm really very disappointed that he can be giving a talk at a tech conference in China and talk about how privacy and fighting against Facebook is important, but I have never seen him make a statement about here is the line with China and other large governments that likes to use technology to control its people and make you disappear ways sometimes. I've not seen him make a statement about saying here is where the line is drawn. Here is where we withdraw from the China market if they ask us to comply with a law that we feel is going to subscript our iPhones into making into harming Chinese citizens. So
he was in China last week. He did speak. He didn't say anything about privacy.
Didn't he make a comment about I'd have to go back. I'm trying to speak.
I'm looking here. He talked about trade. It does feel like he said something about.
I could be conflating. He did keynote at speak at a previous their big like national internet government conference. I think was in November. I want to say.
Oh yeah, this is This is most recently. He calls for stronger privacy regulations at the China Development Forum in Beijing. He said, "I think what." Oh, and then at the same time they moved the iCloud keys to the Chinese servers.
So
that's a little commentary from Karsten throwing up that article. That was actually before Tim went to China.
But regarding the where to draw the line point from Andy, I mean, does that make him more of a hypocrite or more of a coward in regards to not wanting to draw the line clearly and then also treating different governments differently? I mean, I don't know how to properly understand why.
If you're Apple, you have to do what. If you're in a country, this is why Google pulled out of China. Yeah. If you're in a country, you have to abide by the laws of the country or pull out. That's your choice.
Right.
You can't say, no, we're going to stay here and we're going to break your laws.
Right.
Yeah. They'll shut you down.
Well, I mean, Google left.
And
Facebook's not
Should
there.
Apple pull out?
Well, they have a manufacturing problem. Right.
They have a lot of problems because they also need those
also
billion Chinese consumers to keep growth going.
Oh, no. I agree. I was outlining one of the problems. But I mean, like that's the sort of moral decision you have to make. And you should be able to make those choices before you go off and pontificate about how Facebook and Google are being bad kids.
Apple could get the iPhone made not in China. There's plenty of places. They could go to Thailand. They could go to Korea. I mean, Samsung makes its phones in Korea. There's phones made in Thailand. They could go to Taiwan where HTC manufactures.
That would be a massive change in their supply chain. And I mean, that would be enormous.
Yeah, and kind of if they're going to make that change, they may as well bring it stateside. And because another organization they're cozying up to is of course the current presidential administration, they might be able to get some good vibes from them. I'm not suggesting that this would be an easy thing for them to do. I'm not suggesting that they need to pull out of China. I'm just saying that I'm getting more and more impatient with Tim Cook's silence on again. At what point does a government say we need the iPhone to be able to track our citizens this way, or we need your iPhones to be able to control this, or if we need to find somebody, or if we need to find out what somebody has been up to, we need your iPhones to be able to give us this data? At what point do you say, no, you don't get that, and if you kick us out of your country, we simply pull out of your country? I just need some sort of statement that there is a line that Apple will not cross, and I'm surprised that at this point they haven't made it yet.
There is a third route, which I didn't mention. Is it possible possible at Apple behind the scenes, not in public, is negotiating, is trying to exert some pressure. I mean, certainly Apple must represent an important economic opportunity for China, right?
Yeah, it's weird. If you ask human rights leaders of human rights groups about what the responsibilities of companies like Facebook and Apple are, they will actually say that they can do a lot of good for the people by being a presence, by being at least a compromised form of a communication network that didn't exist before is better than having no ability to communicate with each other at all. So there's that part of the argument too.
I'm sorry, I got another bottle of wine now.
Busted.
This is like the Today Show, Hour 3 with Coda and Kathy Lee.
I have to say, now maybe I'm wrong. I trust, Wesley, you're the one who's putting the feet to the fire. I trust Tim Cook. I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg. That's a completely personal point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, I don't know either of them. I don't know anything about either of them besides what we all know. But I look at Tim and I feel like Tim's not lying to me. I look at Zuck and I go, son of a bitch is lying.
Unless he releases an internal policy memo to all employees, all departments, and that goes to everyone, and it's a public stance, people in different divisions will do what they think is better for their division.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As long as it's not going against
a public leadership role if he wants anything to change.
Yes, he has to do that.
And he has not done that. Or has he? Has he done sufficiently? He's certainly stuck it to Facebook.
Well, because that's not the same thing as taking a stand, though. I mean, I think Andy's right. Where's the line? Be honest. Be upfront. Tell us what you're doing,
and tell their people what the line is too. If he's not instructing people below him not to do this,
that's a really good.
They're going to do it.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
The rude way to phrase that is the fish rots from the head, or in this case, the good stuff comes down from the leadership of the company. So I agree.
If you like rotten fish, that could be the good stuff.
Well, isn't that like gefilte fish? Like Sweden or something?
Fermented fish.
Yeah. I don't think anyone actually likes that.
God, you just put me off my wine. And that is not easy. Apple is changing its privacy controls. They are, as everyone will be, responding to the May launch of the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe. Apple will update its webpage for managing Apple IDs to let users, this is so great, I love this, and I wish they'd done this years ago, download a copy of all the data they have about you. It will also let customers correct personal information, temporarily deactivate their account, and completely delete it. This is what Facebook has already done. It's what everybody's going to have to do if they want to do business in Europe.
Is there anything about offshore data? Like, let's say I'm Apple. Can I have a server in Australia that has a copy of this and delete everythting in the Europe server and like put it in cold storage? I'm just asking.
That would be devious. They can't, GDPR, by the way, is a lot of lines of code. But having read through it several times trying to understand it, my sense is that if any EU citizen is doing business with the company, that company has to, and that's why Apple has to do this. It's not for your benefit. It's for the EU citizens. The company has to offer these features, and it has to be global. It has to be 100%.
Even if it's a third-party company?
So if you share the data to someone else, do you have to make them delete the data as well as part of GDPR?
That's a good question.
I mean,
or if I spin up a third-party company, just call it Apple Backup.
The real iCloud drive.
Wow. I would think that the EU regulators would consider that an end around and would say
they have plenty of bureaucrats in Belgium.
And the penalty for this is significant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How big is it?
I think I want to say, is it $40,000 per violation? Let me look. I take it back. It's a percentage of your revenue.
Oh, yes. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a
remember that Google got that smackdown of $12.8 billion.
Yeah.
For antitrust complications. This is a place where they will hold people accountable, and they will let you try to have a second go with a higher court, but you're gonna have to put up the money to make sure that you're gonna pay no matter what. So yeah, this is a good place for these laws to be in effect, and if all of us benefit from it, thank goodness. Thank you, Belgians. You're wonderful. You gave us Hercule Poirot waffles in this.
Here's the sanctions. A warning in writing in the first non-intentional non-compliance, regular periodic data protection audits, a fine of up to 20 million euros or up to 4% of the annual worldwide turnover of the previous financial year, whichever is greater. So 4% of your revenue, 4% of your revenue Fine up to $10 million or 2% if there's an infringement on the, let's see, that's the privacy stuff. So it's up to 2% of the revenue. For
up to 2%.
Yeah, for transfers of personal data to a recipient in a third country. There's your answer. Or an international organization. The data subject's rights pursuant, if you violate their rights pursuant to Articles 12 to 22, that's all of the right of access, right of deletion. Non-compliance with an order or temporary or definitive limitation on processing or the suspension. I think this is pretty serious. I don't think you're going to try to get around this.
So I just pulled up Apple's trailing 12-month revenue to do some math. So 2% of Apple's last 12 months revenue is $4.8 billion. And 4% is just under $9.6 billion. And that's more than 20 million euro, you'll note.
That's a lot of money.
So that
it's the larger of the two. So.
That's a staggering amount of money.
Yeah.
That's not a punch in the face. That's just a kick in the knees.
Yeah. Berkeley Steve in our chat room is saying if you want to get more information on GDPR, I know that Denise Howell, who was on last week, was working to get a great This Week in Law together for Friday. She did. She covered GDPR in our law show on Friday. So listen to that one if you want to know a competent
But the first time this happens, though, you think the company might just pull out?
And just
pull out of Europe?
Yeah. I mean, think that's a significant amount of money, which might prompt significant action.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, especially if you know,
Google's appealing,
India
but Google's not threatening
out.
to pull out of Europe. What did you say the Google fine was? It was several billion, right?
I think it said 12.8, right?
Holy cow.
I remember 12.8, yeah.
Holy cow.
That's, yeah. Because in America, we find a bank like 48 cents whenever they do something really awful.
What was the fine?
And then
remind me, what Equifax paid? What kind of fines did Equifax
It was 3 coupons and a Groupon. I mean, it was nothing.
Nothing.
Are you talking about golden parachutes?
No, those are the positive ones you get when you have to step down.
Okay.
What did Equifax pay in fines?
Oh, and fines.
Oh, let's find out. This is a fun
No,
game.
nothing.
Oh, it was nothing.
Nothing. Zero, zilch, nada.
That's the American way.
They made money.
Yep.
The only one prosecuted has been so far the executive who suspiciously decided to move a lot of his Equifax stock right before the announcement came out.
Yeah, I'm glad they
That's got to be a financial Darwin Award right there. You got to be a real class of idiot to think that's going to fly.
But it keeps happening.
Well, people keep being dumb. I mean, stupidity doesn't leave the human race. It just persists. But, oh, my gosh. What a moron.
Yeah.
And a scumbag.
So enough of this financial talk.
Boo.
I know you love money, Alex, but enough of this. Oh, well, maybe one more. Oracle, it looks like
This was the suit that never ended. It just goes on and on, my friend.
So I tried to explain this on Wednesday and made a hash of it. Let me try again. This goes back to Google's use of Java in Android. Of course, they didn't use Java.
API.
They copied Java.
API.
And they copied, most particularly, the Java API, because if you're going to be a program and you think you're sitting on Java, not Google's version of Java, you need to make Java calls. So Google said, well, fine, you make a standard Java call, we'll respond in a standard way, but it'll be our code. That doesn't require a license from Oracle. Oracle begged to differ and took them to court 8 years ago.
For $8.8 billion.
Yes.
8 years ago. And then Oracle lost. Yeah. And then they did an interesting thing. They decided to make the case not be about using Android, but really about using a copyrighted API. And this got very interesting very fast. Google lost in that case, the court ruling. I think this was it's so hard to follow this, 4 years ago. Remember Judge Alsop, who learned Java so that he could write some Java code. And then he ruled in favor of Google. But then on appeal, the Federal Circuit, which is the Washington, D.C. Federal Appeals Court, which is often very much more in favor of IP holders. They have a reputation of being very strongly in favor of copyright holders. They ruled in favor of Oracle. Google appealed to the Supreme Court, which declined to review, sending it back, but saying, here's the issue. Is it fair use? So there's no question now. The courts have held, and the Supreme Court has refused to review the notion that you can copyright an API. That's done. The only defense Google had was, well, but it was fair use. And now the appeals court, again in D.C., has said, nope, wasn't fair use. You owe Oracle. You owe Oracle $8.8 billion.
So can they go back to the Supreme Court to relitigate the fair use question? Or is that now done?
I think that's done. I think the Supreme Court is the one that sent it back to the district court saying, rule on the fair use thing.
Right.
I don't think there is. I think that's done. But maybe not.
You can't double dip on the Supreme Court.
I'm no lawyer.
Yeah, me either.
I'm no lawyer.
They'll use their previous precedent to...
I'll just say I would go down in flames before I gave Oracle $1.
$8.8 billion.
That company
I remember
is the Death
talking
Star.
to Jonathan Schwartz. He was the CEO of Sun and was at Sun when Sun was sold to Oracle. And among the things that were transferred over was Java. And he said it was really, we have to pull this up, Karsten, from the triangulation interview because it was very interesting. He said, I remember these discussions, when the Oracle folks came and sat down with Sun, and I was really kind of surprised because they really didn't seem that interested in Java. What was really exciting to the lawyers, they were practically rubbing their hands in glee, was the intellectual property rights. Oh, we could sue that one. And I think they really wanted to go after Google right there and then.
Just for the cash grab.
And that's what they saw as the value of Sun. It wasn't Java. It wasn't Solaris.
It wasn't heard in a while.
Yeah. It was the property rights, the intellectual property rights. And that's really what was going on from day one. So that's really what the point of this all was. Now, it's a shame because, frankly, APIs need to be uncopyrightable. That's to do their job. I think, Google is likely to, according to Bloomberg Technology, ask that either the 3-judge panel at the district court reconsider its decision. What does that look like? Please, no. Do over. Or have the issue go before all the active judges. I guess the issue was maybe all the judges weren't there. The losing party could then ask the Supreme Court to take the case, and that's what Google supporters are calling for. So, yes, your answer is it could go back to the Supreme Court.
But I think the song is correct. This is
never-ending,
the never-ending court sequence. I just hope that it doesn't end up with Oracle managing to patent troll their way into a 1/4 EPS bump.
That's amazing.
Put that into finance dork terms.
By the way, we should tell you that they bought Sun in January 2010 when shortly before this lawsuit began, for $7.4 billion. 8 months later, sued Google for $8.8 billion.
We're trying to get that $1.4 billion in profit,
Instant. Little did they know they'd spend a couple of $1 billion on lawyers between then and now.
But what's the line between copyright and not? So does the judge who learned Java, does he have to, did he violate copyright by using those APIs?
That's a good question.
Judge Alsop.
He
was the guy who was doing the Uber Waymo case as well recently.
Yeah, he gets all the good ones. He's in, I guess, Ninth Circuit. He's Silicon Valley location. The fact that Android is free of charge does not make Google's use of the Java API packages non-commercial. That was Google's defense. It's non-commercial. Mm-hmm. We don't charge for Android. The 3-judge Federal Circuit panel noted that Android had generated more than $42 billion in revenue. You can't really,
we don't charge anything for it. Yeah,
it's free. Yeah. And Google didn't alter the copyrighted material in any way. They just used it. So actually, Oracle's apparently going to ask for more than $8.8 billion.
Of course they are.
Why not?
Why not add a zero to that?
Well, $42 billion. We should get at least
$42 billion.
Yeah, that
plus damages.
Aren't some of the calls in Java extremely similar to other?
Oh, wouldn't that be interesting?
So
I don't know.
Could this then go back?
They stole our calls.
Yeah.
That's the thing about an API. API calls tend to be very similar because they do the same thing. I mean, we have an API that we publish and allow people to use to their heart's content for our backend. So if people want to make a Twit app, a podcast app, they can make API calls and populate the information from our servers. Now, that's a normal use of an API. If somebody said, I'm going to duplicate the Twit API and write my own back end, I'm going to, that's nuts to say, oh, you can't do that.
But so you wouldn't care?
Well, I don't want to say that in case somebody does, and we could sue them for $42 billion.
I don't think it would generate that much revenue, though. No offense to the Twit network, but that's a lot of dollars.
That is exactly it. There's no offended party here. There is insert $7.1 billion into this slot, retrieve $8 billion from that slot. That is what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's not about a company that wants to protect its IP. It's not about a business plan that it wants to pursue that it can't because Google has eaten its lunch. This is just, again, put in buy low, sell high. This is what they're getting. They bought a lawsuit and they're going to sell that lawsuit for a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah. That's the worst M&A strategy ever.
Be a good movie though. Honey, we bought a lawsuit.
Honey, I Shrunk the lawsuit.
I'll be honest. If we're at a cocktail party and you tell me that, and I've got a check for $1.3 billion in profit in my pocket, I will nod and say, "You're right. I should be ashamed."
Yeah.
and then you'll pat their pocket and be like, "Yes, good job, me."
I would say I'm not going to pay for that guy's drink, even though I could have paid for his drink about 40 billion times over again. Stupid journalist.
Let's take a break. Our show today brought to you. Actually, before we do the commercial, let me. We have a little. A short movie that we made to celebrate a fun week at Twit. Watch.
Previously on Twit.
Time for me to put on my bush hat.
Mine too.
And your Mountie hat.
What's
Terrible.
my hat?
My Australia, a Mountie hat.
Oh, Mountie hat.
Or a Smokey the Bear hat.
Mm-hmm.
You get to pick.
The new screensavers.
You did something exciting.
Yeah, I went down to Mountain View, actually. They have an omnidirectional treadmill, Ready Player One, that just launched in theaters. You're going to actually see this treadmill. I got to check it out in VR.
Triangulation.
I am very excited to talk to John Battelle. He is the founder of 6 companies. He helped launch Wired Magazine.
This is a story of massively powerful platforms that we do not understand well enough. I'm not saying we should not trust. I'm saying we should not expect the people who run these companies to be responsible for fixing this, because this is the intersection of 2 of the most powerful forces in the last 2 centuries, technology and democracy.
Twit. It's where your brain and tech meet.
Sometimes I just watch those.
I don't care what anybody in the chat room is saying right now. I thought that Australian accent was on point.
Terrible.
You have nothing to be
I'm so
ashamed
embarrassed.
It was pretty bad.
Do watch that John Battelle. Very good points John made. Although I thought he said technology and government. I thought he was going to say technology and advertising. Those are the 2 most powerful forces of the last 200 years.
The A-bomb was in there.
Yeah.
Well, 3.
The A-bomb. All right, government might have something to do with it. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. If you're buying a home and you're not writing a check for the total amount, which certainly in this area you wouldn't be doing, I think in most areas, you might need a home loan. Or maybe you've got a home loan and you want to lock in the low interest rate as interest rates go up. Now's the time to go to Quicken Loans, the #1 lender in the country, and try out Rocket Mortgage, the modern 21st century way to get a home loan. First of all, it's entirely online. No more going to the bank, hat in hand, begging for money, filling out a long application, then going back home and digging through the attic papers, trying to find pay stubs and bank statements. None of that. You could actually do this at an open house. Let's say you go to an open house, you see a house you want to buy, and you go, honey, we should get this house. All right, we need a loan. Okay, watch. You go to rocketmortgage.com/twit2 on your phone. You could do this on your phone, any browser. And you answer a few questions. You don't even need to go to the attic. You don't even go to the brain attic because you know the answers, home address, birth date, that kind of thing. And then thanks to their relationships, Quicken Loans relationships with all the big financial institutions, all you have to do is give them permission. They'll get the information they need. You don't have to go to the attic. They'll do it for you. Crunch the numbers. And under 10 minutes, I mean, while you're at the open house, you will be offered, based on income, assets, and credit, all the home loan options for which you qualify. You choose the rate, the term, the down payment. They say approved, you're done. You can hold it up, show the realtor. Hey, we're good for the loan amount. We'd like to make an offer. By the way, I have some experience in this. That really puts you at the head of the line. If you're coming there with a mortgage approval already, that's the way to make an offer. Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Quicken Loans knew there was a better way, and they created it. Apply simply, understand fully, and mortgage confidently. RocketMortgage.com/twit2. RocketMortgage.com/twit, and the number 2. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans, rocketmortgage.com/twit, and the number 2. We're talking tech. Andy Ihnatko, the celestial waste of bandwidth, vintage. What is it? Vintage veteran technology reporter, or vintage.
You're the cassette player of journalism.
I'm vintage technology.
You're classic, Leo.
I'm a classic. Also, that's
stick a pencil in my ear and twist to get anything out of me. You're right.
And also the young whippersnapper here on my left, Alex Wilhelm, editor-in-chief, Crunchbase News, at Alex on the Twitter. Nice to have you. You've been visiting Rhode Island a lot lately. I see on your
I'm
Instagram.
there monthly, and I certainly love flying that much.
I see a little exchange of jewelry occurred.
Oh yes, if you want to get a
little exchange,
I'm engaged. Yay!
Congratulations, Liza, who is a doll. She's wonderful. She's a resident in psychiatry right now.
Triple board, so pediatrics, psych, and then child psych.
Oh, God, wasn't enough just to have one, huh?
No, apparently she wanted to do all 3.
She's super smart. She's great. And she is weirdly living in my childhood home in Providence.
Yeah, which we're improving right now.
That means you're in my childhood home. I hope you're not in my bedroom.
I think I'm in your parents' bedroom, and I'm going to live there.
Oh, that's even creepier.
Hey. In my defense, you took us there, not me. Yeah, I'm going to live there half time next couple months.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited about
it. You know what? It just makes me so happy to know you and Liza are living there. That is so awesome. Congratulations, too, for both of you.
Thank you.
And will you be moving back there, you think?
Just half time.
You're going to spend half your time back and forth, or
my
6 months a year?
job is on Market Street in San Francisco.
I know.
So that's a different.
So you're going to go like 1 week a month, or 2 weeks a month?
No, I'm going to go 2 weeks a month out there, 2 weeks here. I'm negotiating that at work right now.
That's not the end of the world.
No, it's just a lot of flights, but that's okay.
All right, get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I am thrilled that Wesley Faulkner came all the way up here. You didn't have to. You could have Skyped like most people.
It was fun. I wanted to be in studio.
Thrilled.
Yeah.
We met Wesley. I met Wesley for the first time in Austin. We were down there for South by.
Not the first time.
That's right. We met at CES. Where
South by your first time. Your
the
first
Stubbs, the famous Stubbs,
the backpack,
backpack with the Gandalf staff camera. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming up.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Has anybody seen Ready Player One yet? See, I have an apology to make. John, I want to make this apology to you. Everybody raved about the novel, and I tried to read it a few times. And I'm such a snob. I got stopped right away because there were a few cliches that just bugged me. And you too, Alex?
So the whole book was a bunch of cliches strung together with odd cultural references. But the reason why the book worked for me in the end was that it had a huge creative vision and a lot of problems. So if you were willing to look at the vision of like, what would life be like if we all lived in a virtual world because the real world was bad, fun. If you got bogged down in the 70s or 80s references, whatever the heck that was going on the entire time, it was awful.
And you're too young probably to remember much of the 80s.
I didn't get any of them.
Yeah, see, I got them all.
Right.
And it didn't make it any better.
Yeah.
Anyway, I saw the movie last night, Steven Spielberg. Now, he's been getting mixed reviews in the New York Times. What was it? The quote in the New York Times is a hoot. Something like, let me see if I can find it, because it's about as they're throwing shade. It's in the... keep going, Karsten. It's the last line of... Nope. No, I don't know.
This is web browsing by the Braille method.
I know. I got to find it because it's the funniest line.
What's the gist of the...
That Steven Spielberg is simultaneously the best person
and the worst
person to make this movie. He's the best person because he is an 80s icon himself. In fact, he can parody his own movies in there. On the other hand, they feel like, I think they felt like he maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure what they said. It was let's see if I could find this because
there's a lot of my favorite line was when he describes the actor playing the hero in the film set in 2425. Wade Watts, a young man played by the agreeably blandly agreeable Ty Sheridan.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's a hell of a phrase.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Also, it had a $175 million budget, according to Wikipedia.
But what did it make?
So far, 181.2, but I'm going to verify that with Box Office
They're doing
Mojo.
okay. They had a very good first weekend.
We're all talking about it, right?
They spent a lot at South by. promo.
Didn't they? They had
movie.
the Ready Player One experience, VR experience, and
71% of its box office so far has been foreign and not domestic. It's kind of a data point. Yep. 128 million foreign, 53.2 million domestic per Box Office Mojo.
Huh. Well, I saw it last night and I loved it, and I want to apologize because the movie was really good. And the story, and you're right. I think, Alex, maybe the thing I liked about it was it was an interesting idea, conception. And I'm going back and reading the novel, and I apologize also to Ernest Cline, who not only wrote the novel but co-wrote the screenplay for this.
I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
And he was a producer, so he had a lot of hand in this. And I think Spielberg was just right for it because it felt like an '80s Spielberg feel-good ending Spielberg movie.
Yeah. And it was that's good replayability. You watch it.
Oh, yeah. Lots, because it's full of these references, these 80s references. The music, Van Halen. And I mean, it's definitely a nostalgia fest for people a little older than you, Alex.
No, a lot of 80s music was very good. If they're going to put a bunch of early Metallica in there, I'm down.
There's
I just
no
don't think that's going to
Metallica.
be what they're going to have in there. They're going to pick the bad stuff from the 80s and like Van Halen.
This is what's really throwing me off of it, though. I remember I've been going to the MIT flea market every month since like the 90s. I've seen nostalgia affect markets and how sad it becomes when you realize that the reason why there's the thing that keeps coming back to my mind is like vintage radios. You go to MIT flea market and there'd be a dozen people with tables full of brilliant, beautiful vintage radios that you couldn't possibly afford, because when I was a kid going to the MIT flea market, the people who were like in their 40s and 50s and 60s who remember radios in their parents' houses growing up wanted to buy and wanted to re-experience what they had growing up. And then like in the 2000s and 2010s, suddenly these same radios that were going for like hundreds of dollars were going for like $25, $10, $50, because all the people who were nostalgic about that sort of stuff had died or gone into nursing homes. And so what I think what's bothering me about Ready Player One, and to an extent like all the emulation of old games and old systems, is that now I'm in that 40s, 50s, 60s demographic, and it's like, are these things popular because again we want to recapture all of our childhoods, and then in 10 years time nobody's going to care about it because we'll all be dead? And so nostalgia is such a boring concept. It's like I'm hoping that if I went to see this movie, it won't be, hey, I recognize that car. Hey, I recognize that guy. I want it to be a really good story.
The
and
nostalgia
not
is completely peripheral to the story. It doesn't. It's there without being in any way a critical part. Except, and I don't want to give you any spoilers, so I won't say. There is one exception, and it's actually the most important part of the movie. Does rely on something that brought me back to my younger days. I was actually much older than you at the time, Alex, but I don't know how I can describe this. It involved playing a game on the Atari 2600, and appropriately enough for Easter Sunday, the very first Easter egg ever.
Right.
And you know it from the novel, I'm sure.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and to me, I remember vividly. So there was a nostalgic moment for me playing this game, looking for this Easter egg very much. This was a big deal. So in that sense, there was some nostalgia, but it isn't a nostalgia fest. And there's some really good performances. Yeah. Mark Rylance, who is one of my favorite actors and normally plays prestige roles, plays a nerd. He plays John.
Are you saying nerds are not prestigious?
Halliday. He plays basically an on the spectrum nerd. And it's really well done, and it's quite funny. And at first I'm going, who the hell is that? That's Mark Rylance? But he's really good. He's really, really good in this. I agree the leads are kind of bland, but they're supposed to be. It's a young adult kind of fiction kind of thing. Here's the New York Times quote. Steven Spielberg is the only person who could have made this movie and the last person who should have been allowed near the material. They also conclude, and I think the New York Times is strangely ambivalent in all of this. I think they feel guilty because they wrote a follow-up article that said, and it made $1 billion. It says, Ready Player One is far from a masterpiece, but as the fanboys say, it's canon. And I think that's accurate.
That strikes me as a dodge.
It is a dodge. It is a little bit of a dodge. The Times feels guilty because they're headline today is Ready Player One overcomes challenges to dominate box office. And the first line is Steven Spielberg aced his test. He's 71, but I think he did a really good job with this movie. Yeah.
Good for him. He finally made that big one, that big commercial success.
71 years of trying for that big break.
Yeah.
What were we saying, though?
I wish if this is supposed to be a world where everyone kind of goes and congregates, why is there a stereotype that the person or the people who are in it are nerds? Or wouldn't it be everyday regular people all the time if most people are congregating?
Okay, so the nerd is the guy who made it.
Yeah.
And he is a central part of it. But one of the things they say is that nearly everybody... It takes place in Columbus, Ohio, which is unaccountably the fastest growing city in the world at this time. That's what they say at the beginning of the movie, which is bizarre. No, well, there's a reason. I don't want to get into it. There's a reason why it's the fastest growing. But the people, they say in it, everybody plays at least a little bit every day.
Yeah.
And what you see as you go down the streets is everybody's wearing their VR visors all the time.
But also inside the world, keeping this really generic, there are certain people who take part in the VR world as a social event and some that search inside of it for a specific set of things.
Right.
Right. That's big enough.
And the nostalgia that comes to it because, well, I don't know how we can talk about this without spoiling something. The nostalgia is an artifact of what's going on. It is not something that's normal in society. In fact, it says very clearly in the first pages of the book, nobody knew or cared about the 80s until... And I'll leave the until on set because I don't want to spoil it for you.
That's a teaser.
It's a great movie.
Now I have to go watch it.
Yeah.
Gosh,
you have to go see it.
I plan on watching it.
Okay, here's some weird tidbits that I got from our home theater expert, Scott Wilkinson. I thought, well, this must have been shot on digital, right? 35 millimeter.
No way.
Well, Steven Spielberg. And then I said, well, but at least the CGI, which is probably half the movie, that must be UHD. Nope, no CGI in any movie is more than 1080p. It would be too costly and time-consuming.
Even for a movie that cost $181 million to make.
Wow.
It's about time. Time is the most valuable thing, and you cannot manufacture enough of it.
Because you got to make a movie in a year. You can't.
Wow.
You can't take 10 years.
Yeah, it's on effects on this scale, they don't have enough time to do everything, all the effects at 4K. I've read it.
So maybe there'll be an 8-bit version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
You've just described an Adam Sandler movie that I tried really hard never to see.
Pixels.
That's good Netflix burn right there.
There are some anachronisms. The Iron Giant is in it, even though I vividly remember the Iron Giant emerged in the 90s, not in the 80s. But okay. Okay, but there is...
Did they do that just so people would know there were problems with it and talk about it more and then word of mouth it? Because...
I think it was a sop to people of your generation. Did you grow up with the Iron Giant movie?
No, I was on the kind of like sheltered Christian side of things. Yeah,
that's right.
So,
you were Davy and Goliath.
I was more VeggieTales than anything, if you will.
VeggieTales was weird.
VeggieTales, looking back, surreal, odd, at the time, adorable and full of fun.
Yeah. It's kind of like those weird YouTube videos.
Which weird YouTube video?
I think it's the inspiration for the weird kid videos on YouTube. VeggieTales.
Oh, they had all the controversy a few months ago. Yeah.
But that's just me. I don't know. I want to talk about this, but I don't know if I should because I know you won't like it. Turns out cell phones might cause cancer after all.
Well, what's a little cancer between friends?
Which cell phones? Like analog or modern day
cell phones? So this is a study from a reliable organization, the federal government, the U.S. National Toxicology Program. It was a study designed in 2009 that has concluded. They exposed rats for 2 years to cell phone radiation. What's weird about this is the results of the study, as published, said that there were equivocal... Now, to understand this, you need to understand how the U.S. National Toxicology Program rates evidence. There are four different levels. There's no evidence, which is we can't draw any conclusion from the study. Equivocal evidence, which means, well, it's hard to say. Some evidence and clear evidence. The study itself said that there were equivocal evidence that the cell phones had caused tumors in the hearts of male rats and female rats.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andy.
Well, I read the study, or at least the dumbed down version, but the official dumbed down version, and so there's a lot of there's a lot of reason not to be terribly worried. It's a study that tells you that there should be more study. They tested it on male rats, female rats, male mice, and female mice. They subjected us what they could only have done, which is essentially it's like being immersed in a bath of the type of radio signals you would experience that 2G and 3G phones, not 4G and LTE phones emit. And so it's essentially like, imagine you're on a sunbed, and the entire, instead of fluorescent tubes, it's like all one huge phone. But they found tumors in the male rats, not significant tumors in the female rats or in the mice at all. They also found other effects that were affecting the male rats in other biological ways. It wasn't so, and the dosage was at the maximum that is permittable. So it's not as though they're doing 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times the dosage, but the exposure was something like 10-minute intervals with an accumulation of like 9 hours per day. So we're talking about a test that is definitely applicable to male rats, not necessarily applicable to other rodents, but definitely says that. But the language as it is absolutely correct, that if you're asking, did exposure to phone radiation create tumors in the test subject or did it not? It did. And should we say that it clearly created results? Yes, it did, as opposed to it's in some but not others. No, it definitely in this situation they caused some biological badness to happen in male rats, but it wasn't enough to start people getting concerned about using their phones.
So here's the thing that is interesting, and I think deserves more examination. They're going to submit this, by the way, to the FDA. The FDA will then decide what recommendations to make, and that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. The original paper, as submitted and published earlier this year, said the results were equivocal. By the way, that matches pretty much every study ever done on this, that it's hard to say there's a connection. It's equivocal means we're not sure, we don't know. In other words, it's non-conclusive. And that's what every study has said so far. And that's what this study said until last week. Then the National Institutes of Health, which does a peer review session on this stuff, brought together brain and heart pathologists, toxicologists, biostatisticians, engineers, a panel of peer reviewers. They did something unprecedented. Traditionally, typically, when an NTP study is peer-reviewed like this, the peer reviews just say, yeah, you're right. At best, they might send it back and say there's some methodology issues, but they never upgrade. In this case, they upgraded. The peer review took equivocal and reevaluated the data, upgraded several of the conclusions to some evidence and this is the one that's concerning, clear evidence. So the peer review said, this is a good study. It's accurate. And we feel that it's significant enough that we're going to upgrade these findings. I don't know what to say about this. All I can say is I feel like it's our responsibility to bring it up because we have said for years, even though people have said, well, there could be, and right. I would be prudent, but we've said there's never been a study after study over decades now. There's never been anything to say there's a link. This is the first time, and I think it's appropriate to say it. We should mention it.
I had this discussion with my wife about radio waves, and we're talking about like how depending on the wavelength, it can interact and not interact with cells.
This is non-ionizing. This is the kind that is safer.
But when we got to the point where I said, okay, well, I can kind of see that, is that large emitting electrical equipment can cause a current or electrical interference. So I wonder, depending on the proximity of the waves to the equipment emitting the waves, the equipment itself could also be doing this to the rats, and not just the waves themselves. Just the waves. Because if the equipment is pulling a current that changes, our bodies are full of electrical signals, and if it's changing that and interacting with that through the magnetic waves or with a current, if you push enough current through it, that could be causing some of the problems if it's emitting like 2G signals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have to defer to, you have to defer to the peer review committee and presume that these people are experts, and that's the kind of thing that they eliminated. I don't see any political gain for them to recommend this. In fact, I'm sure there's pressure to say otherwise, right?
Right. Huge.
Because there's a huge economic incentive to say cell phones are safe. So, I think that the other thing we know, and this is part of what you were talking about, Wesley, is that it's the inverse square law, that the farther away the radiation gets, the source gets, it drops very rapidly by the inverse of the square. So even a foot is a significantly less exposure.
Right, which means that maybe for tower workers, this could be applicable.
I remember climbing Sutro Tower, the big TV tower in San Francisco. An engineer took me up there, and I came back down, and I had white spots all over my hands. And he said, oh, yeah, no big deal. It's just radiation burns from the tower. He said, we get those all the time. But they changed the law like a month later to make you wear a metal mesh suit when you go up there from now on. So yes, proximity and the amount of power, those are 100,000 watt
and time of exposure.
Time of exposure, all of that's relevant. What the FDA will recommend, I don't know. But I think at this point, anybody who carries a cell phone might want to, just shouldn't be sleeping on it. A lot of people take it to bed with them.
I sleep with my phone underneath my pillow.
Might be a bad idea.
Every night.
Might want to put it on the bedside table. That's far enough. You just need a foot or two.
Well,
don't put it next to your chest.
Now I will never answer the phone again because I don't like to anyways. I'll say, look, I can answer the phone, but I have to put it near my head and then I'll die. Sorry, I couldn't take your call.
I have to choose between what's going to end my life sooner, exposure to the phone radiation or the lack of sleep I'm getting because I'm not using the sleep tracker that requires me to have the phone like in the bed. But
even then it's not going to be at full power, right?
Right. There's still so many questions to answer because you're right. Distance is the safety thing with all radiation, but nonetheless, you're talking about. So we're not really worried that much about people holding their phones against their heads because how often do you do that? But if you're carrying your phone like in an inside jacket pocket, realize that the radios are working even when you're not having a phone call take place. So it's possible that if you are carrying that there for 12 to 18 hours a day. Over time, this is why scientists get grant money, because these are questions you can't solve unless you throw lots of money at grad students.
We love cell phones as much as I love cell phones. I carry several at all times.
Yeah,
it's important. If there is an issue, I don't want to bury it. I think people need to know that, so they can respond appropriately.
At the same time, you have to make sure that there's a reason why they use the language that they do in scientific papers, because they are speaking to other scientists. So other scientists understand that we said that this is what happened to mice in these situations, and it's hard when you're a journalist to make sure you're not communicating. Scientists have demonstrated you should be careful about your cell phone. Like, well, no, they haven't, unless you're a mouse and you live in a little house for which the roof is a huge cell phone. Then yes, definitely.
Well, this is now a big market for radiation-proof pillowcases. Therefore, I can keep my phone with me at all times and not worry about it. I would pay a lot of money for that.
All right, we're getting close to the end of the show. I hear. I want to make sure we get everything in. Oh, here's another one. Here's some happy news. I always like to end with happy news. The FCC has approved SpaceX's plan to launch 4,425 satellites. For a broadband network that will blanket the Earth in radiation.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounded awesome before we did the last story. Now I'm not really so sure.
No,
it's a big phone in the sky
up there. They're 100 miles.
Okay, well, think of it as like this new network satellite network is going to be like a Faraday cage that protects us from space radiation
until the big solar flare comes and knocks out both it and us, and then kind of GG all around.
So this is why I don't want Elon Musk to end up in a cardboard box with a tear-stained face.
Saying Bankwupt.
Because I want SpaceX to do this. They'll have to start launching a lot of them if they're going to get 4,425 up. The part of the agreement says that they will launch at least half of these satellites within 6 years. So the FCC says, yeah, but you got to get 2,200 of them up quick. The Falcon launch, I didn't know this, carried 2 SpaceX test satellites for global broadband. This service is going to be called Starlink.
That's awesome. I love that.
Starlink. And they will be fairly high altitude at 1,150 kilometers. That's high, right, John? That's not a... But you do that so you have a larger footprint. It's not low Earth orbit. No, it's kind of more of a standard orbit. You also have to keep the satellites separated by 125 kilometers of each other. there are those, including people with satellites already up there, who are a little concerned about traffic jams in space.
Yeah, more junk. But the whole point of this is to essentially make sure that there is no corner of the planet that can't directly get internet. It differs from standard communication satellites because these are communications. The old way is you got communication satellites that will then downlink to a station that then turns it into some sort of useful broadband for where you are. The idea is that your phone will, just like your phone communicates with GPS satellites directly, will be able to communicate with this constellation directly, which if Ajit Pai is really he's making lots of happy noises about this, and when he makes happy noises, that could be good news, that could be very bad news for consumers. But if one of his mandates, one of his priorities really is making sure that the entire country, every community gets access to broadband, this is one way to solve that without having to run cable and optical wire everywhere in every community where it doesn't make financial sense. So.
Yeah, but he'll be.
So actually, this is low Earth orbit. A geostationary orbit is typically 22,000 miles up. So this is actually fairly low Earth orbit, 823 miles. And then, by the way, this is only the beginning. The total plan is for 12,000 satellites. Yeah. And many of them at 684 miles up.
Well, to put that in context, there are I think there are only 1,500 satellites total in the air operational right now.
I saw this on WALL-E.
Total for everything. Yeah.
The animated movie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
With all the space junk. But every time that he does a launch, in order to do the telemetry, he has to rent it from NASA to be able to track his satellites. Right. And I'm guessing with this constellation that he'll be able to do that himself. Especially with the accelerating of their launches, and then if you're talking about possibly with the point-to-point Earth launching with Falcon Heavy, or not Falcon Heavy, but the BFR, that they're going to need a continuous communication channel when they launch from point to point, if that is indeed in their future. So it's advantageous for them to be able to control all that.
So this is as much for their communications as it is for internet.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you can say this is for disadvantaged nations, but it's going to be equal across the face of the earth, I would guess. So
in terms of potential access,
we'll all benefit, right?
Well, there's problems with places like China and places like Russia where you can't just give them internet.
Why not?
They don't like that. They don't like their people to have free access to
the government doesn't like it, but I might put a dish in my backyard in Turkestan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you couldn't sell Teslas in Turkestan because I'm sure the government would be like, well, Elon, one man, two companies. He breaks our laws with one. We won't let him import the other, right? Oh. But I don't see them just saying when it's over China, the rules are different. You can't put up the Great Chinese Firewall in the sky.
I don't know.
So I hope you can. It's a Pink Floyd.
So what are they going to do? Shoot him down?
No. Just ban access to them, right?
Well, to the receivers, you mean?
To the receivers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. Then we'll use it here, and we'll beat them in the race to better
great
VR.
Internet space race.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and our final thoughts coming up in just a second. Andy Anatko, thank you for being here on your Easter Sunday. Did you bake a little tiny ham in your sous vide?
No, but I had the traditional lamb-shaped cake from the 1953 Betty Crocker kit that my grandmother used to have.
Did you really?
No. There was when my parents died, there was a lot of really, really brutal fighting over the lamb-shaped cake mold. Unfortunately, my sister had more upper body strength and was far more wily and was able to best me for control of the lamb-shaped cake. She sent me pictures of the lamb-shaped cake.
Good news, Andy. They've got them on Amazon.
Oh no, not like this one. You could kill somebody with this one. This was like 1953.
How about this? How about some baby bunny cakes?
Imagine an Iron Maiden for torturing lambs. That's the scale and the impressiveness of this kitchen device.
Some Slavic retro Easter lamb cake. Is it a stand-up lamb or is it a sit-down lamb?
It's a kneeling lamb, the peaceful Lamb of God that you then again bake and then put frosting and sprinkles over, like Jesus himself.
Here's a cast.
Vatican II really did change a lot of things. Well, the Latin Mass was only the
This
first.
looks like
something like
this
that.
looks like it. It's even a little rusty.
It's something like that. Yes.
How much would that weigh? How much does the cake thing weigh?
Oh, it's substantial. I think it's like 4 pounds, something like that.
Oh wow, you could.
my
Well, you have to hit
God.
pretty hard, but you can be close.
You know what? I
No,
have
this is-
a lamb cake mold curing recipe that could save this lamb cake mold. It clearly needs saving. I think we should. I'm going to get this for you, Andy. Fix it up and send it off.
Then you can say Happy Resurrection.
Yeah, the lamb was resurrected. Oh, now we're going straight to hell.
I've never, by the way, seen those before. Are those a thing? Are those like common?
Must be a Russian Slavic.
Okay. All right.
I think it's most often used for meats than for like savories.
Oh,
but
you
it's
put
often used
spiced
for
lamb
cakes.
in there.
Yeah.
You make spiced lamb in the shape of a little lamb?
Yeah.
Dude, that just feels somehow kind of weird and wrong and bad. And I'm not having it. I don't
So
approve.
you'd much rather that the kids would enjoy seeing an innocent little lamb being slaughtered in the driveway, and then bled out, hung by its back hooves next to the Cordoba, and then served perhaps again with a still remorseful
Andy,
tongue lolling in its face.
We're in
We'd
Petaluma.
much rather have cake.
In Petaluma, there is a truck that goes around this time of year. It's the lamb slaughter truck. And the people who raise lambs, the truck comes to their house, in go lambs, out come chops.
Yeah.
And this is something we all grow up with. It's just part of life.
My first year in 4-H, when I sold my lamb at the end of the summer, and it was going to be slaughtered, and I just realized that, I just cried for like several hours.
It's all right.
Yeah, sad
You were
times.
getting a manly experience of life.
No. I was getting a child crying in the parking lot.
We're going to kill Fluffy?
Its name was
Never, okay,
Winston.
first thing they learn in farm country, you never name your lamb.
Yeah, my parents were not farmers, so when I was doing this, they did not tell me to not name it Winston.
Never
Broke
name
my heart.
anything you're going to eat, don't name it.
Did Winston at least taste good?
So, no, I didn't eat Winston. Long story. I'll not get into details, but I didn't have to eat
sorry,
the
I
lamb
did-
that I took care of.
I didn't mean to trigger something.
Oh,
here.
no, it's about the 4-H process, and no one cares on a tech show about a farm program for kids. So I'll just let
Oh,
that
we
go.
have them here, though, boy. Everybody here. Lisa's nephew raises beautiful pigs, giant big sows.
Pigs are mean.
I'll bring you one some. Oh, they're not just mean; they're huge.
They're huge and
They're
mean.
scary.
Yeah.
I saw The Wizard of Oz. Let's rind this up with a reference to our fabulous mattress. You spend a third of your life, maybe more. In my case, half my life, on the mattress. You want to have a good mattress, and I got the best. I got a Casper. Let me tell you something. Casper is a online. You're gonna say no, Leo. A mattress this affordable cannot be this good, and I'm gonna say I beg to differ, because Casper has done something really good. They've eliminated the middleman. That means all of that. You know, the middleman in a match. It was funny. The guys who came up with Casper, they're looking around. They're saying, what is a business where disintermediation could really help everybody? Like, where is the most ridiculous markup happening? And it is in the mattress store. They are and the sales practice is worse than a used car salesman. So you go in a mattress store. I know we used to do this. You go in, you lie on a mattress for 5 minutes with this sales lady looking at you like this, and then you say, "I'll take that one." It's the wrong. I guarantee you, that's the wrong mattress for you. What you need to do is get a mattress, eliminate the middleman, so you're going to save a lot. Get the mattress and sleep on it in, what do they call that? In vitro. In vivo.
In vivo.
In vivo. You got to sleep on it in vivo in your life, and experience it with all the vicissitudes of fortune, the ups, the downs, the ups and downs and downs and ups, and all of the things that happen, so that you know that this is the right mattress for you. And you don't have to decide that in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or a week or a month. You have 100 days, more than 3 months. It's 100 days of sleeping on this mattress to decide, is this the mattress for me? And believe me, it is. But if for any reason you don't like it, I love Casper. They come, they take it away, they give you back every penny. It's as if it never happened. But you're not going to want that, because you're going to say, no, don't take my mattress. You can't have my mattress. The Casper mattress is obsessively engineered to combine multiple, this is the original Casper, the one we have, combines multiple supportive memory foams for a sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right bounce, Plus, its breathable design helps you sleep cool. I like that. I don't like sleeping hot. It sleeps, breathes, your temperature is regulated through the night. By the way, I've had mattresses where you have to open them up and let them lie there for a week but to air out, not the Casper. Boom. It comes in a surprisingly compact box. You open the box, whoosh, the mattress is full size, smells great. You can sleep on it right away, and you're going to want to. In fact, I took a nap the first day we got it right away. I said, I got to sleep on this. And it's so good. You could buy it online. It's completely risk-free. And by the way, that is true now in the U.S. and Canada and the U.K. Free shipping and returns. They're made in the U.S. with the highest environmental production standards. They're really, really great mattresses. And you're going to get $50 towards select mattresses when you go to Casper.com/twit. So not only do you save by eliminating the middleman, not only do you have a great experience and get a great mattress, you're going to save $50 on select mattresses. Casper.com/twit. But you have to do this for me. Use the promo code TWIT at checkout. Some terms and conditions apply. Casper.com/twit, promo code TWIT. We ended up getting a Casper for, well, the kids when they went to college. I feel so bad. Henry got to the dorm room and he said, "This is disgusting." The mattress had been through several generations
of college
people.
Yeah.
And so, but I said, but he was on the second floor. He comes in a box. He got it upstairs. Like he's probably got his roommate to help him. And I said, at the end of the 4 years, leave it there. It's okay. It was affordable. The next guy, let him benefit. Casper.com/twit. Use the promo code TWIT and save. I don't know. Is this a software story? It might be. Software gremlin robs Formula One world champ of season's first win.
Oh, wait. I recognize the name of the Hamilton.
Yeah, this is in the Melbourne Grand Prix. Hamilton was leading from the start. Third place. So there was one of those slowdowns. You know, they call it a virtual safety car, VSC, because one of the American team's cars, wheel nuts became loose. They took it off, and then they do a software slowdown, which is, I'd never heard of this. You guys familiar with
Sounds
Formula
like
One?
A governor. We have a Formula One
in Austin.
In Austin, yep.
I know. When's that? Is that coming up?
Towards the end of the year, usually November.
I want to be a Formula One fan, but I can't afford it.
What does it cost to be a fan?
Oh, it's a lot of money.
Let's just say most people use private choppers to get there.
Yeah. It's like big bucks. It's not NASCAR, baby.
Yeah, they talk about it on Top Gear, so I can say Formula One words, but that's about all I got.
When we visited Monaco, which, by the way, even going to Monaco for a night is like, you need to be, I mean, it's crazy. But we stayed at the hotel that's on the hairpin turn in Monaco, and I walked along where they go under the tunnels and stuff. It would be so cool to see that race there. Anyway, the VSC, when it's active, the drivers have to slow down. They can't pass. They can't go below minimum times for each circuit sector. Otherwise, they get penalties. And this is all because they want to keep the race state the same, right? Nobody passes. So safety marshals have time. Everything's a little slower, but nobody gets to advance. During the VSC, the number 2 guy ducked into the pit lane, picked up fresh tires, and because the speed rules don't apply in the pit lane, he passed Hamilton. Hamilton said, my software thought he would spend at least 15 seconds making the pit stop, so we allowed him to have 15 seconds. He got out in 11 seconds. He got a 4-second jump on the guy. And Hamilton said, basically, my software failed me, and I lost the race because of that.
I would be unbelievably mad if that
He said
happened.
It was a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton's amazing.
Then they did something weird. Later, he switched his engine management system into party mode.
Yeah.
Is that like ludicrous mode in a Tesla?
Party mode for maximum power.
It basically is the mode that says, okay, software, you're an idiot. Let me do it. Let me make all the decisions.
Party
even if it makes me blow up the car.
Override.
Yeah, the software. It's I am so fascinated by the engineering of these cars, particularly all the software that goes into it, because this thing, it absolutely can't go 10 feet without software translating what the driver wants it to do with all of this technology that is just so on the edge. It just wants to either not run or explode. Mm-hmm. And without software, it will do both at the same time. It's amazing stuff.
Ian Thompson wrote this article. Next time he's here, I'll have him explain all this Formula One stuff. But I party mode.
Those cars are ridiculously expensive and sophisticated.
It's cool.
I mean, they're a platform for a reason. I mean, that's where they do all the development. And the reason why, I mean, look at just this picture. You can see that the sponsors are Mercedes-Benz and Ferrari. That's their audience, right? That's why it's so expensive, because that's their demographic.
So they're not really catering to us, I don't think.
Exactly.
All right, fair enough.
Right.
We would get like,
I want a car with party mode. Speaking of party mode, here's the sad story. Of course, the Apple engineer who was driving his Model X Tesla, same model as mine, had the same problem I've had many times in my Model X Tesla, which is the autopilot tried to drive him into the side barrier, the big cement barriers that they put up during construction. And he complained to Tesla. He brought his Tesla in. I did the same thing because there's a curve in Marin. I brought mine in. He got the same response from Tesla. Nothing wrong with it. It's doing everything it's supposed to do. His mistake was he left it on and mustn't have been paying attention. And unfortunately, there was a kind of a double whammy because that barrier, which is supposed to be a crash absorption barrier, had been crashed into earlier in the week and had not been replaced, so it wasn't protecting him. And it's actually the worst Tesla crash I've ever seen. The car just...
the whole front half is gone.
And he passed away, right?
He passed away. Apple engineer, 38 years old. It's very sad. And Tesla said, yes, the autopilot was on. I think they kind of weaseled out a little bit. They said, but it told him to put his hands on the wheels, which, of course, it tells you all the time. I think the lesson, the PSA here is they call it autopilot. It's not autopilot.
It's pilot assist.
Exactly. It really people had the same. This isn't just a funny story. When cruise control first appeared, people thought that I can just put cruise control on and then does it go into the back seat and take a nap?
Right.
And no, it's all it's going to do is maintain a speed for you, and that's it. So it's all this millions and millions of dollars going into autopilot technology, and so much of that money should be going into explaining to the owner what this software can and can't do. It's dumb. People are not dumb, but there are very predictable ways in which you can get people to screw up, and it's so easy, it seems, to get them to not screw up by simply calling it assist mode.
Yeah,
and this is right after the Uber killing a pedestrian.
I feel like this was a bad week for self-driving vehicles.
This was the bad week that we've been waiting for a long time. This was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you push tech in this way in the real world, there will be real consequences, and we've all known this was the bad dream that was always on the horizon.
Did we rush self-driving and autonomy?
I don't think anyone else here has enough credentials to call that, but I think Eddie's right. The answer is probably or possibly.
You're absolutely right. But I've spoken to engineers who are not comfortable with certain platforms being allowed on public roads. They're comfortable with them being allowed in controlled environments, like again the test neighborhoods that they've bought and set up for this sort of thing. They're comfortable with these modes being used on highways where things are relatively predictable, but in the major scrum of a public street where you can have places where people would be idiots to try to cross on foot, but they do cross on foot. And when you have people doing the most unpredictable and stupid things, counting on a human driver behind them to do the right thing to preserve both their lives, they just don't work very, very well. And so this is the last 5% of this problem is going to take 10 years to solve, and that's the window in which a lot of people are going to die. But the last thing I want to say about this though is that people are going to get killed with human drivers as well. So a lot of this is, again, human interface, trying to explain to people that, yes, a human driver would not have caused this fatality, but this car over the 10,000 miles that it drove autonomously or in an assist mode saved probably 8 lives, or collectively this fleet of vehicles saved well over 100 more lives than they took because, again, this is such a twitchy thing, driving a car. People get hurt, people get killed, but you feel like it's completely unsuitable when it wasn't a person you can blame for being distracted texting or just not paying attention. It's hard when you have this black box that you don't understand at all was responsible for the taking of human life. You just would mentally, on some level, you would much rather have 20 more people die to the one person that would be killed by the autonomous car than simply accept that a box you don't understand took a human life.
Well, the question is, what was it doing? How did the crash happen? I mean, did it just turn?
Yeah,
the
he
barrier?
was complaining that it veered into the barrier. And I've had that happen with my Tesla.
But if it
I actually
veered-
yesterday had it go over the dotted line, which it's not supposed to do in autopilot mode. But you learn as a driver, you hope you learn, and I feel bad for the driver in this case, not to trust the Tesla. You keep your hand on the wheel, and if it starts doing anything weird, especially since he complained about it doing it in the past, you keep an eye on it and maybe don't use it in that stretch of the road. Lisa won't use the autopilot at all anymore. She says.
So it would be safer probably if he was in the center lane.
Yeah. But the truth is, it has software to follow the lanes. It's far from perfect.
Yeah.
Here's the article in Fast Company that I think is very interesting. I want to give her credit. This is by Ruth Reeder. And she raises the specter at the end of something she calls a flash crash in the autonomy space. And actually, David Sosnow deserves credit for that, coining that. In the case of high-frequency training algorithms, remember the flash crash in 2010 when the stock market bottomed out because all of the software kind of interacted in a way that was disastrous. If there's a flash crash in the autonomy space, says David Sosnow, there's no reset button the following day. A lot of people have died or been seriously injured. This is the scary thing. This is Zohar Fox, who's a co-founder of Aurora Labs. Every 1,000 lines of code in a car contains an average of 50 errors. Standard QA testing misses about 15% of those errors. Well, that you could figure out what that leaves behind. Those errors are an issue and can cause, in a car, a death. So this is something we really... Software is not perfect.
7.5 errors per 1,000 lines of code sounds like a lot if it's going to involve making decisions on the fly for me about life and death.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Humans make far more.
Yeah, I'm about to say that. Like, I'm not a very good driver because I'm very distracted.
Yep.
And also, I don't like driving that much. I enjoy it, like, maybe on a road occasionally, but, like, no, I'm not good. I'm never going to be good.
Yep.
And as soon as this can help me not drive, the world will be safer.
Yep. So, I think that's generally true. It's just that there might be some losses in the
but you can't, there's no good phrase for that in English.
No.
Well, a few weeks back, I'm sure you saw the Waymo 360 YouTube video.
Yeah, wasn't that cool?
And it actually draws lines and says what it's thinking and what you're doing, which if you said your car was veering, you could use this interface to help kind of debug yourself, understand the patterns, and be able to report that. And,
Tesla presumably collects all this information.
Yes, but they don't expose it to you in real time.
Right.
And so maybe you would be more vigilant if you were being more active in the process of autonomous driving.
Right.
Instead of being more relaxed, you can actually say, okay, I know I'm coming up on a concrete barrier that has reflective tape on it, and every time it seems to do this, then you can suss out these patterns on your own.
Right.
Which they don't give you this access to do that.
That reminds me of an interview that I once read between a pilot who was talking about all the technology, how glass cockpits have changed the nature of flying within a certain generation of pilots. And he said that whereas historically, when you think of what makes this person a great pilot, traditionally this would be he's a good stick and rudder man, or she just by feeling the pedals, what's happening with the plane, just by sensing what's around him or her. Here's what the plane is doing in this air. And now the definition of what makes this person a great pilot is this person is a great manager of the cockpit systems. So it's okay if their controls are not directly connected to anything. They're just controlled to sensors that tell the computers where he or she wants to go. This is a person that can keep an eye on these 4 screens, figure out what it's telling them about the air around them, about the performance of the airplane, and use that to guide the computers to do their best work. So maybe we're looking at that where it's a new form of driving where it's not turn on the autopilot, go into the back seat for a nap. It really is, you're still driving, your brain is still active, but rather than really actively keeping your car within the lane and keeping a space between yourself and the car ahead of you, you're managing these systems that are informing you of what's going on ahead and keeping you and all the other drivers safe.
Yeah. This is that video Wesley was talking about with the it's pretty amazing what this car can do. But Waymo has far fewer failures. The Uber, I saw a stat that Uber self-driving car, the safety driver had to take over about once every 15 miles. The Waymo was more like once every 5,400 miles.
Well, when you think about companies with long technology pedigree, there's Uber, and then there's Google. And they're distinct.
Yeah.
you look at how many miles each of these cars have driven. Uber is essentially a 15-and-a-half-year-old with a learner's permit.
Right.
Whereas at this point, the amount of experience in terms of miles on the road, you're talking about collectively about a 21, 22-year-old, still with a lot of people, a lot of things to learn. But you really have to. It's why machine learning. People forget that the accent is on the word learning. It has to learn. It has to have experiences, and so that's why Uber. I've been talking to more people than I used to since that Uber crash. That Uber is not very well respected, not because they don't have good people working on them, but because they don't have nearly enough experience in these AIs to put it in a live fire exercise in a world with bicyclists in them.
Yeah. Andy Ihnatko, always a pleasure. Thank you for taking a little extra time with us. We'll see you on Tuesday for Mac Break Weekly. You'll find Andy's website, cwob.com. He's also at Ihnatko, IHNATKO on the Twitter. And don't forget his material podcast at relay.fm. Thank you, Andy, for being here. Really appreciate it. Great to see you. Good luck with the lamb mold this evening.
If she doesn't save me the head, there's going to be some more arguments here.
Wesley Faulkner, thank you so much for coming here. You got something you want to plug? You came all the way up from Austin. I'm so grateful to you.
Yes, I came with a long laundry list of plugs. The first one is one of my bosses, Joe Hill. Thank you for letting me come here.
Oh, that's nice of him. Yeah.
Without
thank
him,
you,
I wouldn't
Joe.
be here. Yes, thank you,
We
Joe.
should edit this and put this at the beginning. Okay?
Of course,
This is like
my
an
company,
Oscar
FSG.
speech. If you don't thank your wife first, you're dead.
Yeah. I won an Emmy once.
Yes.
Forgot to thank my wife.
Yes, thank you.
Never will live it down ever. And I'll never win another Emmy, so that's that.
Yes.
So, thank you, Joe Hill.
Our website for our company is fsgi.com. So if you have a building or a structure, you need solar panels, you need battery storage, you need smart building controls.
Oh, this is
FSGI.
what you do.
Yep.
Oh.
I work in, there are many divisions of FSG, but I work in the energy division where we do controls.
How cool is that?
And
should I get the Tesla wall battery? They just offered it to me. I have panels. Should I get the wall or should I call you guys instead?
Call us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we do mostly, we don't do residential. We do commercial.
That's all right.
But you have my number.
I know you. I know a
you
guy
have access.
inside.
Yeah, you can have access to our people through me. I want to give a shout out to someone I also admire in the space.
No, really, that's okay. Everybody's laughing. Why is everybody laughing?
His name is Brian Tong.
Brian Tong.
From CNET.
Yeah.
He is independent now, and he just launched a Patreon to continue on Applebite as an independent.
What a great idea.
So if you just go to Twitter, go to Brian Tong's Twitter handle, it's pinned there. Contribute to his Patreon. He's a great guy, great person, and he does really great
Andy,
work.
I have a feeling we should get Brian on Mac Break Weekly here and give him a little plug straight from the show. That's great. Thank you for bringing that up. I did not know that. Okay.
And lastly, I am the advisor of a company called Ultimatum. It's to help raise money for charities. So if you go to yourultimatum.com, sign up. The beta is going to be launching later on in April. And we would love to have you. And of course, my wife and my 2 kids. Thank you for.
Is this going to be like a crowdsourcing for political change kind of thing, social change?
Yes, more of like if this then that. So if this legislation passes, then donate to this cause that'll help those people.
What a great idea.
It's more of like a direct change for direct action.
Love
so if you feel really strongly against not sharing your data when you want to get a visa to the United States, you say, if this passes, give money to ACLU or whatever group that would help focus that.
Nice. Yourultimatum.com. And that launches in April, so come back in April and tell us about it. That's like today.
Yes.
I can't believe it's
going to be officially launching, I think, at Collision in New Orleans at the end of the month.
Great. Wesley, real pleasure. I hope you come back. And next time you don't have to come all the way.
All right. Thank you.
Tell Joe that, okay? I don't know who to thank for you, Alex Wilhelm. Mr. and Mrs. Wilhelm, probably, and many years of Veggie Tales. Alex Wilhelm is the editor-in-chief at Crunchbase News. He owns @Alex, which is remarkable in and of itself.
It's a good handle. I'm glad I made that wager on Twitter back when FriendFeed was blowing up.
Yeah.
It was a weird
You
era
thought
on the
everybody
internet.
was leaving Twitter, and you thought I'd put my stake there, light my flag.
You get lucky sometimes. Yeah.
So when's the date? Have you set a date?
I'll give you a month because we're on air. June 2019.
A year from June.
Well, we were going to get engaged in June. We just did it earlier. So we're kind of keeping that.
I heard June's a good month to get married.
I hear the weather's good in Providence.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
It's the 1 month it's actually decent.
I just learned how to shovel snow off a walk.
Oh, you poor guy. You went through 4, not 1, not 2, but 4 nor'easters.
It was a lot of snow, and I've learned that I don't like snow and that the East Coast is too cold and shouldn't exist.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you a Casper for my parents' bedroom. They'd appreciate that.
There's no response to that whatsoever. That will not get me in trouble with someone. So I'm just going to drop that.
If
like
you just tuned in, it makes sense, honest. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We do Twit every Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes there's wine. If there is, I invite you to join us if you're over 21 and share. If you want to watch live, do join us in the chat room at irc.twit.tv because that's where all the smart kids are in the back of the class throwing spitballs and stuff. We love those guys. Thank you, chat room, irc.twit.tv. The live stream is at twit.tv/live. And, of course, on demand, audio and video of everything we do at Twit is available at our website. That's twit.tv. You can find subscription links as well there. In fact, if you can, subscribe. That way you'll get it every week automatically. The minute it's available, you'll have it for your Monday commute. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.